And just like that, it's autumn. We're into our third season now in 2025. And yeah, autumn has started today. The sun went into the sign of Libra, which marks the start of the astrological new season. We've got these 4 points. They're called the cardinal points. We've got 0 Aries, 0 Cancer, 0 Libra, 0 Capricorn. And today the sun crossed over 0 Libra. And so, yeah, I thought this would be a great time to talk about the next month that's coming, not the next month, but the next season, the next 3 months across all 12 signs of the zodiac, and to give you a bit of a heads up of some of the prevalent patterns. Now, there's some big patterns, really big patterns. We've had big patterns all year, and they're going to continue actually into 2026. Lots of big ones. But autumn is particularly choppy. We're coming into a season of oppositions, and there's a really distinct pattern to them that I'd like to share with you today, because I think it will help you to understand the balancing act that's really represented through the sign of Libra, which is where the sun is right now. You know, the sign of Libra is very much, you know, the scales. It's about weighing everything up, about getting everything balanced. You know, not to have one side up and one side down. You know, this is about getting everything level. And, you know, it's an air sign. And, you know, the cardinal air sign, you know, the air sign of Libra is about finding that balance between our thoughts. And I think it's very much about finding peace. And so that's one of the things I would like to address actually in these forecasts. I'm also reminded of quite a few words. I've just finished doing all my membership videos for the week ahead. I do them now on a weekly basis, by the way, in case you're interested. So I just sort of banged out 24 of these videos, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, right the way through. And a lot of keywords kept coming up in my language, and I always notice them. You know, I work very much sort of intuitively. I look at the charts, but then go into a flow. And so I'm never sure what I'm about to say. And sometimes it surprises me, and I've always got my pen handy and I make notes. And so the words that came out a lot was restore. Like, we're coming into a time to restore. Reset, I think, is one that I've been saying a lot for the last couple of years, really. But revival was something that came up, like restore and revive. Like the idea of bringing things back to life, and reintegrate. You know, again, that's very much about the balance. And so I'm going to explore all of this in these forecasts. But before we do, I just want to explain what I'm going to be looking at when I'm looking at each of the charts. But before I do that, I just want to say welcome to Feel Good Astrology if you're new here. My name's Louisa Tanner-Munson, and the way I practice astrology, I've already said it's very intuitive. But I like to look at astrology as a really sort of holistic practice. I think the chart is there to really give us really clear advice as to how we can come back into wholeness, how we can come back into ourselves. And that's the way I'm really looking at it for. You know, I'm less about, on Thursday next, you're going to meet the love of your life. And whilst that's a fantastic fortune to share, that's not really quite how I work. You know, I'm looking at archetypes, and I'm sort of channeling what I see as well. So who knows what comes up when I do these. What I do is I work from slides, and I just see what occurs in the moment. This is unscripted, but I do make myself some little prompts with these charts. So anyway, first thing that I would like to point out as a pattern, because there's quite a few patterns that are going on throughout this whole time. You know, so we've got, for instance, throughout this next 3 months, and we've already had this pattern for months and months and months, we've got Pluto in a trine with Uranus. Now, they're both in air signs. During this 3-month season, Uranus is going to go back into the sign of Taurus, so it'll be going across air and earth. But, you know, the air energy is very, very strong. But Pluto and Uranus at the time of the exact equinox that happened today, you'll see there, the sun is at 0 degrees. these guys were both at 1 degree, so they're exactly in their trine, and they're in air signs. They're both really slow moving planets, showing that the influence that they have is really coming from a generational place. It's also deeply unconscious, like we might not see it come up on us, you know. These movements are slow, they're purposeful, and they can be deeply shocking when all of a sudden we realize that something is going on. So, you know, the further out the planets are in the solar system as we perceive it, I think the more disconnected we are to the actual planet. We're not processing it personally, but they still have an effect. And so Pluto in Aquarius is very much a destroyer of systems, and also creating new systems. You know, Pluto is always looking about control. And, you know, I've recorded loads. There's 3 really big forecasts I've done about Pluto in Aquarius over the last couple of years, which might be worth listening to if that's your bag. We've got Uranus in Gemini. And Uranus has just newly gone into Gemini. He is going back into Taurus soon, and then he'll be coming back into Gemini on the 26th of April 2026 for good for the rest of this duration. But Uranus is a very mental planet, very much the planet of astrologers and also channelers, and also people who are fascinated with how things fit together and schematics and like this knowing, this lightning fast knowing about things. I always think of him as being quite sort of wildly architectural. It's like, I think perfection of thought can come, you know, very much from the ether. It also like rules the internet, I would say. You know, he's the ruler of, or one of the rulers of Aquarius. And so Pluto and Uranus kind of have a resonance right now, you know, aside from the fact that they're exactly 120 degrees away from each other. So these guys are really playing well together at the moment. So Pluto, who wants to control and work through things and like deeply transform them in a way that, you know, could like crush us and scare us and make us quite fearful. A lot of fear comes up with Pluto because we fear the fact that we don't have control and something else appears to have the control, and that would be Pluto. But Uranus, you know, Uranus is a planet. Sure, I've given you the consciousness, the mentality, the fact that it also shows a lot of quick, instantaneous thought, you know, as, you know, the internet and programming and things. But Uranus is also about deep shocks, and they're like the chasms that come up with these deep shocks. It's in particular shocks of consciousness. So Uranus is very unstable, and in the sign of Gemini, which is a very quick, like fast flying sign, you know, the energy of information and information sharing is going to get so fast that we just won't be able to keep up. I mean, that's how it is already with AI. You know, as I'm typing in a question to AI, the answer comes up within a second usually of me having finished it, as if it's in a different space-time continuum to us. You know, I mean, my ability to perceive time, I can perceive a second, and I can perceive a minute, and I can perceive an hour, and I'm used to those increments. But AI must be able to process thousands of like fragments of seconds. It can process things faster than I'm aware of, my own awareness. And so it appears like magic, of course. So things are speeding up very quickly, and shockingly so. But one of the things that occurs to me is, you know, the sun's just gone into the sign of Libra, and actually tomorrow, tomorrow on the 24th, the sun will exactly be in a trine with Pluto and exactly in a trine with Uranus. Now, these guys have never been in a trine. I don't think they've been in an exact trine yet. They might have been, but it comes about very infrequently. And these have been in a sort of trine position, but not exact, for months now, and they will continue to be in a trine for months. But they are coming into this exact trine right now. They're both at 1 degree, and the sun is also happening. You know, I don't think I've seen this in my lifetime. Pretty sure I haven't. So this is a very sort of like once in a lifetime, maybe twice in a lifetime kind of event, maybe 3 times, I don't know. But the exact alignment of that happening is really quite stunning. And so we've got this flow of energy and restoration, in particular quick restoration that's deeply churning us and transforming us, happening at a very personal level, at an identity shift. I see this as. Now, Mercury has already gone into an exact trine with each of these. Venus will be coming up. So this is a bit of a, and every time the moon goes around and laps, we're going to get this sort of energy. So this is one of these persistent energies that's coming up over the next 3 months. We've also got a trine. Now this is coming in and out a little bit. Jupiter has been in an exact trine with the North Node already. And, the North Node is always going this way from our perspective. And Jupiter is direct at the moment, but will be going retrograde. So they are going to be working within an orb. They're going to be in a trine, not an exact trine, but it's pretty fortuitous. The North Node is, the North Node is in the sign of Pisces, which Jupiter rules. So that is really bringing up a very sort of Jupiterian theme for the North Node. The North Node is about the sort of direction of travel that we're working on right now. Maybe our life focus, our life lessons that we're working on, in a very sort of Piscean way, which could be higher thought, higher spirituality. It could be the deepest of creativities through the veils, the imagination, the intuition, the psyche, the cessation of stories, where we stop our stories and we come into a kind of deeper knowing where maybe all stories exist at the same time, all possibilities. And of course, Jupiter is known as a planet of expansion and faith. And so I do think there's a lot of people finding themselves on a path of faith right now. I see that as a really big theme. And so these guys are working together. And of course, over the next 3 months, we're going to have, first of all, Mars coming into an exact trine, like with each of these separately. We will also have Mercury, we'll also have the Sun, and we'll also have Venus during this 3-month period, all coming into a trine with these. Obviously, the Moon's going to do this every month. So we have this sort of faithful, good feeling, intuitive, deep psyche type energy going on, which I think is going to be very beneficial for us all. The personal planets are going to be going through the sign of Scorpio. That's very deep, really looking for a deeper context to go real down into, I think, matters of loyalty and trust. So, they're kind of blending with faith. I do think there's going to be some beautiful realizations that we have, in particular about how faith maybe matters to us or what our spirituality is. We're going to come to know it in a very different way, I think. And interestingly, and I don't often do this, but when you put them together, they're almost making a 6-pointed star. And this kind of configuration does crop up from time to time, but I think we're going to see it cropping up a lot over this next season. And then we've got another pattern that this is what I'm really going to talk about with the forecasts. We've got, and you can't quite see it here, this is just a quick little drawing, but you've got Neptune and Saturn that are continuously in a conjunction. Now, I've spoken about this a lot in previous videos, so I won't go over it too much, but again, there's another faith kind of energy with this. In particular, Neptune in the sign of Aries, I think, is really about a holy war. It's also about bringing our spiritual alignments into action. Like Neptune is so spiritual and creative and very much about communion, if we can get there in our human forms, so I think people are going to be taking action on the idea of communion and connection and the sort of interconnectivity of all humans. And Saturn next door in the sign of Pisces is going to be going to be maybe stabilizing that vision. I do think we could bring heaven to earth, but I do think lots of people could be taking action in the name of faith, but actually coming possibly from a place of anger, because, the Aries energy can also get us whipped up into a frenzy. So they're going to be doing a little dance in between Aries and Pisces. As we go through this, they'll both be in Pisces at the end of this season. We've also got Uranus in an air sign right now, like I said earlier, and he's going to go back into the sign of Taurus. So we've got these, and we've got Chiron in the middle. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. These are, no, Chiron's not a planet. He's a centaur and a comet. He's got a few different categorizations, or classifications. But we've got, these are slow moving planets, so Uranus and Neptune are outer planets, very, very unconscious. Saturn is, I think, one of these bridging planets, like Saturn and Jupiter, right in the middle of the solar system. They're helping us to process the unconscious, sort of like deep in sort of insights, these hidden longings, these impulses, these future visions that are kind of just outside of our personal consciousness, but are felt through the medium of a universal consciousness or a planetary consciousness, or a section of society might be having a particular sort of consciousness. And then you've got Chiron that goes in between the Uranus orbit of the sun and also the Saturn orbit. So, Chiron is interesting because he's bringing far out consciousness slap bang into the hard light of materialism. There's a lot of woundedness that goes on here. So we've got these slow moving bodies, all very much out of our personal consciousness, but working together. Now, here's where it gets interesting. These are all going to be pretty much in the same space. And then we've got this side of the conundrum. So the sun has just gone into the sign of Libra. The sun is actually right here at the moment. It's just there's too many planets. It's pushed it out slightly. Venus isn't quite here, but will be coming in here very shortly. And by the end of this season, all of these planets will have gone through this part of the chart. Now, what's special about that? Well, they're going to be in opposition. So, Mars has already gone into, Mars was here a bit earlier. He's moving a bit, he's a bit further ahead at the moment. But Mars has already done his opposition to Neptune and Saturn. Right now, he's in opposition to Chiron. And then towards the end of this sort of autumn, you'll see that, he's the first one that's going to be making an opposition to to Uranus. And so each time he makes an opposition to one of these more unconscious planets or asteroid, he is going to be getting very stirred at a physical level, and feeling some of these deep impulses, some of these hidden longings, according to the sort of theme of each of these planets. And of course, we've got Mercury. He's right now in an opposition to Saturn and Neptune. He will soon be in an opposition to Chiron, and later on in an opposition to Uranus. And then we've got the sun already here, is going to make the same path. And of course, Venus. Venus is slightly slower. But during this autumn, we're going to get, not only are we experiencing these trines, these grand trines that are being reconstituted here, and here throughout the beginning of Libra, and also midway through the sign of Scorpio. But we've got a whole series of oppositions coming up from the planets that are felt personally. So the sun, the moon's obviously going to go into these oppositions every month. We've got the sun representing our identity, Mercury representing our thinking and also our communication, and also our ability to move around quite quickly, and also to transact with people, like business messaging, banking. Mercury's got quite a big hand in that, and travel as well. A lot of people travel around quite a bit. Movement is going to be felt in different ways. We got Venus that's very much about our relating, like how do we relate to people? How do we relate to situations? How can we feel good? Venus is a benefic, and so she's going to be having her own journey. And of course, Mars, which is felt very much at the physical level in our bodies and is our drive, is very masculine. So we've got our identity, our mind, our heart, and our body, our flesh. You could also say we've got the masculine the masculine and the feminine. And, you know, Mercury is a little bit neutral. You know, Mercury, you know, the planet, or Hermes, you know, is very, you know, is a boy, but it's very sort of sprightly and not overly masculine like Mars is. So we've got these very sort of like personal energies that are going to be working with the deepest parts of consciousness. So yeah, I think we're in for a bit of a ride, and that's what I want to talk about in these forecasts. So here they are all laid out, going across the Libra Aries polarity. Mostly, we've got a little bit of Virgo Pisces coming in, and Sagittarius Gemini, that's with these oppositions with Uranus. And then when Uranus goes into the sign of Taurus, it's coming across the Scorpio and Taurus polarities. Now, if you have, you know, a lot of planets, if I go back, if you've got a lot of things at the end of Pisces, beginning of Aries, at the end of Taurus, beginning of Gemini, or if we go to the opposite, at the end of Virgo, beginning of Libra, and also the end of Scorpio, beginning of Sagittarius, these oppositions are going to really trigger some things in you. You really feel them in quite a palpable way. So it's worth always checking out your chart. And if you're new to astrology and you'd like me to check out your chart, then just feel free to book an appointment with me. All of my details, if you go to my channel page, or if you look, you know, in the description field below underneath the video, you'll see links to be able to book directly into my diary. Just invite me. So yeah, happy to sort of explain or help you come to understand what might be going on. But with these oppositions, you know, I think we're getting a balancing of the unconscious and also the conscious mind. And I think, you know, every opposition, whilst it looks like we're in resistance, it's also an invitation. It's inviting us to cross over the bridge from one side to the other. And again, this is bringing back the Libra message. If we go here, you'll see the Libra symbol. You know, the scales, it's meant to be level. It's not meant to be tipped one side or the other. And so this is, to me, is about reintegration. You've got these two sides. You know, many people, when they're looking at the world right now, are talking about politics. You know, you've got these two parties, but lots of people also say that it's two wings of the same bird or two sides of the same coin. And you might find, you know, that you've got some polarity in your life. I think we've all got polarity. But one of the things that I recognize with this is, you know, if we are, and this is an assumption, this is just my assumption here, and it may also be your assumption, but if we are this human community, if we are all linked in consciousness, and there are lots of people working from very deep, a deep unconscious place, you know, like working in their psyche, working with shadow work, and sort of feeling bitterness or feeling these very, very strong emotions. And then at the other end, you might have people that are very busy, like busy in their personal lives, really not paying any attention to their shadow sides. You'll find that all of these possibilities are existing for humans, but there's this kind of lopsidedness about it. To me, what I see is we are getting the opportunity in this season ahead to integrate the shadow. And, you know, this could talk about trauma and betrayal. And this is actually something else I wanted to just mention. Throughout this time as well, we've got a square between Pluto and Chiron. You know, they've already been in this square for a really long time, and this is also going to persist. I just didn't use it because it didn't fit into a pattern, but it's still there, and it's still very much felt. You know, Chiron, you know, alluding to our wounds, you know, really bringing up some of our core woundedness, you know, some of our earliest memories, some of those things that we're not able to heal in ourselves, but we might be able to heal in other people or help other people see. You know, it can really show where we've been betrayed, especially in a square to Pluto, because shadowy Pluto, he's bringing stuff to light. You know, he's the god of the underworld, but he can also show where there's a bully or there's an oppression or there's a push that causes this kind of wound. And so I think a lot of people right now are identifying with their wounds. They're seeing other people's woundedness around the world, and there's this sense of identification. We're identifying because we're seeing other people suffering. And so the idea of the big bully, the oppression, the force, the unnecessary force, and the betrayal of people that, we maybe once trusted. I mean, this could be like anyone that's got some kind of parent issue, which I think most people have. Most people have got some issue with their parents at some level. And I'm a parent, I've got 3 children, and I realise I probably will create some kind of parent issue for my children, not through any direct malice of my own. I'm not trying to do that, obviously. And seeing it from being a child and also a parent, I also recognise it's an impossible task, to keep people happy. We're always going to get betrayed at some point, or feel betrayed, through no fault of our own, and possibly not through any fault of your parents, unless obviously they are utter bastards. Hopefully they're not. But yeah, those old, the oldest wounds are usually the ones where we felt betrayed by our parents, or we felt cast out by them, or we felt let down, we felt belittled by them, shamed by them, vulnerable because of them, afraid because of them. Anywhere where you've got any of these stories playing out right now, there's thousands of stories that you can see just in your local community and further out in the world, where there are similar things that you could absolutely identify with. And I don't think we're going to be lost for any of these identifications. So this is a continuous theme. And so when I'm talking about integrating the shadow, as I see it coming up this autumn, we've got this opportunity to look at the trauma and betrayal we might have felt, because it's in the air. It's, like if you think of fish, they're all swimming in the same water, and if you put if the water gets out of balance, all the fish sicken. I think we're in this psychic space together, and if lots of people are feeling into trauma and betrayal, and their deepest shadows, their deepest hurts and wounds, we're all going to be feeling it because we're all swimming around. Similarly, if people are swimming in joy and able to lift themselves up, I do believe that spreads out. If you think of a light in a dark room, the light makes a huge difference. Whereas if you put a point of darkness in a light room, it makes no difference. So, we really can lift each other up if we've got the presence of mind to do so. And if we've been lucky enough to, and also conscious enough to be able to create that joy for ourselves. And so, I think we're going to be confronting the shadow. I think we've got an opportunity to transform our bitterness and embrace vulnerability. So this could be quite testing as we experience these oppositions. And yet this could actually be what it is. This could be what it takes to create a sense of revival and restoration in ourselves. We process the things that have been somewhere trapped in our mind-body system. We're getting the chance through our mind, our body, our heart, our identity. We're getting the chance to transform, transmute, and hopefully let go of some of this. And you're not on your own. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are actively doing this right now. You only have to do a quick search on embracing the shadow work, and there's thousands of people running courses and talking about this. So this is definitely a theme going on, and I just see this theme getting stronger and stronger in this season ahead. So this is what I'm going to look at. It looks quite complicated. I've simplified it per chart. So we've got 3 triangles. There you go. There's a lot of detail. What I'm going to do is look at this on an ascendant by ascendant basis, because where the unconscious side is showing up in your chart and where your conscious side is showing up in your chart, it's going to be different according to what your ascendant is. You'll see it moves around. There you go. So I'm going to be looking at it on an ascendant by ascendant basis. Now, this is also using a whole sign, Western traditional, tropical model. So if you're learning astrology, or if you look at your chart and you see that there is one sign per house, like one whole sign per house, then this, this is the forecast for you for sure. Just look up the sign of your ascendant, which is your whole first house, and that would be the one that you listen to. Now, if like me, when you look at your birth chart, you've maybe got Placidus or some other charting system. For me, I have two signs in my first house. I've got the sign of Scorpio, and I've also got Sagittarius in my first house. Like each of my houses has got a couple of signs in it. Some people, like in different parts of the world, have got 3 signs in one of their houses. So, I mean, there are all sorts of different things that can happen with charts. But if you've got 2 signs in your first house, I recommend listening to both of the forecasts, because you'll get a really full understanding. It will be creating a subtle difference. So bear that in mind as you go through this. So Aries Ascendant, here's what I'm sensing for you over the autumn season, when we're going through the Libra, the Scorpio and the Sagittarius months, as I'm going to call them. When we're looking at your chart through the perspective of the position of the planets right now, we've got a lot of unconscious, very strong, immovable planets, really spanning just from the edge of your 12th house and just inching into your 3rd. And to me, what this is really showing is there's a lot of real deep transformation in terms of how you're seeing yourself, in terms of your identity, and also in terms of your attitudes about money, and deservability, which I think comes up with this sort of 2nd house energy. And so to me, it's like, identity and deservability. It's really speaking of the shadows that you keep about yourself, which are going to be brought into the light of day. So for instance, you've got Saturn and Neptune, that have been very recently in your first house in this sort of more visible part. And it's really given you much more to think about in terms of your moral code, your belief systems, and how they might shape what's going on in your life. Now, throughout this season, Saturn's already back in the 12th house, but Neptune's going to go back into the 12th house. And so you might find that you're going to get even more intuitive, that your identity isn't quite ready to process the deep longing to understand how the world works, and how faith works and all these different models. And so to me, this is bringing up a little bit of confusion. With Chiron coming to the end of his time in the 1st house as well, you might be getting a bit tired of woundedness. You might be getting a bit tired of feeling tired with life. It's almost like you want to be done with problems. It's like the preoccupation with problems is just too much. And then, Uranus is currently in your 3rd and edging back into your 2nd house, really encouraging you to get more active in a more eclectic, more interesting, more original way. I mean, you don't shy from things normally, but this is encouraging you to be a lot weirder, a lot more yourself, and not have to worry about being kind of normally independent. Aries isn't necessarily known for being completely wild. It's known for being very direct. But this is really encouraging you to be wildness, but also to appreciate your wildness. And, over this next 3-month period, you're going to have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars going through this side of your chart. And they're going to be activating these feelings for you, and these subtle longings to understand yourself better through the relationship with your partners. So you may find that over this next autumn season, the next 3 months, that you're going to get some triggers from the people in your life, in particular the person that you might share your life with, represented by partners. If you're not in a relationship, you may well find that this is coming from the next load of people that sort of show up in your life a lot. They might be your clients, your work colleagues, the people around you, your family, but they're going to be bringing up a lot of questions for you. You may feel very resistant to them. You know, you might find that they're kind of bringing to light some of your awkward feelings about your faith right now, and your spirituality, and how you can really mark yourself as being an individual, but like not the sort of cool individual that maybe you've always known yourself to be, but that there's another side to your individuality that's less comfortable. And so I think, you know, you'll be learning more about this over the next 3 months through the people in your life. And then towards the end of autumn, it's coming into this this time of the Scorpio season. And for you, the Scorpio season is one where issues such as shame, blame, guilt and anger come up as a bit of a theme. And so you may well find that not only have people brought up these themes, but now it's going even deeper. And so you're able to identify where you felt shame, blame and anger. And you might have, like, Mars is really leading the way. He's the physical planet. So what you might find is that you get these physical ailments or physical feelings like revulsion or like a stirring in your stomach because of something. So you're getting the feelings first, these very, very strong feelings to show that something's not quite right, that you're in a bit of resistance to something. And then Mercury's coming up, really showing he's going into opposition with Chiron, and later on with Uranus. You've got all the times down here. So Mercury is in his Uranus opposition on the 29th of October, for instance. And then you're getting this very sort of strong communicated message. So what I'm really seeing for you is that you're feeling things ahead of time around people. It's almost like you're in the company of people over the next 3 months. And when you're in their company, you're getting these symptoms or these feelings, these strong feelings that are hard to hide. And then, you know, through conversations, you know, the Mercury function, and through finding things out through the people that are in your lives, you'll then be challenged by the sun. You know, the sun's going to come into these oppositions. And so the sun is representing where we've had an identification with something, how that fits with us now. And so you may well find that some of the stories coming up over the next 3 months are really activating something at a deep core level that you really didn't believe about yourself. But to me, this is really facing your shadow. And then finally, like, Venus is the last planet that's really experiencing all these oppositions. And the last of these oppositions is on the 30th of November, which is almost a month before the whole of this autumn season ends. But this particular Venus opposition is really helping you to recognize that you can relate with people that you don't necessarily agree with. And anywhere where you're feeling separation, it's not to say that there's no relationship there. To me, this is really teaching you that it's okay to be weird yourself. It's okay to be a lot more different than you've ever been. And at the same time, it's okay to be connected with people at a much deeper level, even if they're really, really different for you. So really, I think this season is helping you understand yourself through difference and through contrast. Now, there's some really great stuff about this season as well. So, for instance, we also have a grand trine that comes up from Pluto down to Uranus, and earlier on in autumn, there are opportunities for you to work very, very quickly at a very social level. This is activating your 11th house, your 3rd house and your 7th house, which is about your partners, your community, and then your large networks. And so I do think that there's going to be some very shocking, exciting, and fast-paced movement in your life because of the friends and the new friends and the new scenarios that are coming in. That's another theme that I see coming up. But then we've also got these really sort of delicious trines that are coming up. So we've got the North Node in your 12th house, really emphasizing your sense of inspiration and intuition. You've also got Jupiter down in the 4th house, really helping you to feel trust at home. And then all of, we've got like Mars, Mercury, Venus, and the Sun are all going to come into a trine at various points with this, really showing you that this season is also about going deeper into trust with people. So whilst you're learning about yourself through contrast with the people around you, you're also coming into a much deeper trust with yourself at the end of this. So this is a very stirring time for sure. But yeah, this is about you crossing the bridge from all of the unconscious energies around the world, but also every different unconscious thought you've had in your life and all the different things that have happened that you've maybe not filed away yet. And you're getting the chance to file them away and make sense of them somehow. So I hope there were some little nuggets in there that were helpful for you, Aries. If you'd like me to work on your chart, to help you make sense of this, and also just as a sort of tune up to see what's coming up in the next year, then please do just get in touch. All you need to do is invite me to work with you. All of my details are below, and also on my channel page, so you can just book directly into my diary. So lots and lots of love to you. Have a great autumn and catch you next time. Bye for now. Hey Taurus Ascendant, how are you doing? So this is a look at some of the overarching themes for you during autumn of 2025. Now, I don't know if you caught my introduction to it, sort of talking about the persistent themes that are going on. There's a few that I really want to talk about. One of them is this beautiful trine that keeps setting itself up. And this is really coming on during the time like the Scorpio season. So currently we've got the North Node here and we've got Jupiter here, emphasizing things to do with friendships. This is about the community, your expansion through community, and this is very much about how you're learning about friendships and networks and the power of a group vision. Well, throughout the Scorpio season, we've got Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and also Venus are all going to come into this third point at some point. Sorry, 2 points there. Giving you an opportunity to really tune into the faithfulness of friendships. And I think also it's a message of trust. This is helping you trust the people in your life and to feel a sense of belonging with the people that are coming in, whether they're people that you're in a direct relationship with, people from your local community, or people from very powerful networks with whom you share a global vision with. There's another grand trine that's coming up, which I haven't put in because it would be too many triangles, but there's a very, very fast one that's actually coming up right now. In fact, on the 24th, we've got the Sun exactly here, Pluto up here, and Uranus here, working through the 2nd, the 6th, and the 10th house. I mean, this is very exciting because to me, this is showing that there are some really big transforming visions that you've got for yourself in terms of your money, how you work, and also your career and the direction you're going in. And so it's another ongoing theme. So these are like themes that keep coming up over this month ahead, in particular when the moon goes into Scorpio, and also when the moon goes into Libra. These triangles are going to be reconstituted, reminding you of your business endeavor and what you're here to do, and then also reminding you of the friends, the connections, and the sense of community belonging that is an ongoing theme. So this is a great ongoing theme to have in the background. But we've also got these unconscious outside influences that are pushing in on our lives from the outside that we might not be consciously aware of. We might get a sense of them. And then in opposition with them throughout this autumn season, we've also got the very conscious and personal influences. I don't know if you can hear my 6-year-old son shouting in the background there. He's talking excitedly with my husband in the background. But we've got these very conscious and personal influences also playing out. Now, to me, what this is really showing is we've got a chance to metabolize. We've got a chance to reveal some of the shadows that you've got in your own psyche, and also some of the vulnerabilities that you've experienced in life that maybe you've kind of covered over, sort of hidden, and tried to stay away from. They're really coming up, not just because you need to have them come up, but because right now there's a big sort of like worldwide awakening going on. I really think there is. You know, you've got Neptune and Saturn here around this Pisces and Aries cusp. At the end of this season, they'll both be in Pisces. We've also got Chiron, the wounded healer, as he's sometimes known, lurking around your 12th house. And then Uranus starts off in your second, in the sign of Gemini, and he ends this season back in Taurus. So, you know, these guys are, you know, talking about sort of discipline and parental authority energy, also energies of spirituality and creativity, but also possible deception, hurts and wounds, and also shocks in consciousness and changing consciousness. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on around the world right now whereby there are huge shifts in consciousness that are dislodging a lot of old hurts and wounds, and authority that appears to be spiritual, which might be, but might not be. There are some very, very strong voices right now that you might be aware of. And so these are all being triggered because we've got the Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars, not in that order, making an opposition with each of these planets as it goes through. Got a list of all these different oppositions as they take place. Essentially, Mars has already got the steer on them. Mars has already gone into opposition with Saturn and Neptune. He's currently in an opposition with Chiron as I record this. This is on the day of the start of autumn, the 22nd, the day of the equinox. And, you know, he'll be the first to go into an opposition with Uranus. Where is that? Oh, no, Mercury's going into an opposition with Uranus, but he's going into an opposition with Uranus on the 4th of November. In fact, you can see that like this 29th to the 4th, I think is a very strong time, you know, with 3 of these. You might find the 14th and 17th, that's another big time where things are really stirred up. So there are little pockets of energy here. But if you think about the personal planets, the Sun is representing your identity. Mercury is representing your thoughts and your mind and how that's working. Communication, also like your movement, your free movement. Venus is very much about the feminine principle and yielding and relating and loving and sharing. And Mars is very much about your body, your physicality, your ability to take action and to put up some defense. And so you could say this is your identity, your mind, your heart, your body, mind, body, soul, you could say. But all the different aspects of you are going to be reacting to the very strong sort of holy war, the very strong bringing heaven to earth themes that are going on right now in 2025. They're all going to be reacting to the collective wounds of everybody and triggering your own identification with old wounds. It's going to come up. And then they're all going to be, there's going to be an identification, I think, with some of the disruption that's going on around the planet, with, you know, some of these countries where governments are going down, where there's mass protests, where there's a lot of shock, there's a lot of disruption, there's a lot of anger, and I guess there's an eruption of a changing consciousness that's very difficult to process. And so in this autumn period, I also think this is going to be happening. We're going to be feeling it. You're going to be feeling it. We're all going to be, you know, if you believe that we're a society of people that connect into each other, and, you know, psychically, but we also connect in, you know, via our devices. We're connected to people around the world all the time. We get to see so many different things. So yeah, this is coming up. And for you, it's interesting because on the one hand, you're really busy in the 6th house, really showing that there's this real feeling for stories, your own stories, and yet there's this feeling that you need to drop the stories because what you're learning about yourself through what's going on in the world is changing your stories. It's making you think that everything you've put money on, everything that you've believed in and have lived your life by, that it's somehow fake or false, or that it's I don't know. To me, this is showing that you're going through some very deep questionings about the life you're living and the way you're living it. And then as we're getting further into the season, there's this sort of energy of other people are, and their questions and your interactions with them are triggering deeper thoughts about who you believe yourself to be. So, yeah, this is a very important time. And you'll probably find that during these Scorpio oppositions, which are really coming in around the 21st of November, the 30th of November, this is going to be a time when you're really questioning yourself, because they're going to be going across the 1st and the 7th house. So, yeah, it's a time, I think, autumn starts off with you being very busy, but coming into conflict about the stories you're holding. And this ends up helping you to change who you believe yourself to be. So I think this is absolutely a time of restoration and revival, because you're letting go of what's not you. And remembering is another one of these words, actually. You're remembering who you are, or maybe why you're here. So just to quickly recap, there's this restoration of ease socially for you, this sense of emotional connection and belonging coming up as a theme for you in autumn. There's also this huge, quick, fast moving energy linking your money ideals, your productivity and your career together. So it feels like it's in a good flow. And at the same time as these easy flows are going on, there's some deeper questions about your life, what you've been believing. And then when you start to question them and you hear other people adding some things in, it's bringing you into a completely different place. So I think autumn's going to really leave you changed, Taurus. So I hope that was helpful. Now, if you would like me to have a look at your actual chart in greater detail, then just get in touch. All of my details are below, and you can go to my channel page. There are links leading directly to my diary, so feel free to invite me to work with you. Just book yourself in. But anyway, thanks for listening. I hope it's been helpful. And if you've enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe. I really appreciate a little nudge there. It's very, very helpful. So anyway, lots of love to you. Take care and have a great autumn. Bye for now. Hey Gemini, how are you doing? So this is, I guess, a shortish message, around 10 minutes, to talk about autumn and some of the themes for you as I see coming up. If you listen to the beginning, it was a bit of an intro about the overriding themes I see, in particular about restoration, reintegration, revival, remembrance. There's a lot of very strong, persistent patterns. And so I just wanted to share a few of them with you here right now. The first one that I see, and this is something that's really coming on in like late October and through the Scorpio season. We've got this beautiful trine. We've got the North Node here in the sign of Pisces in your 10th house. We've also got Jupiter in your 2nd. And then we'll either have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, or Mars, or the moon. That's going to happen 3 times, making this 3rd point of a grand trine. Now, to me, this is showing where there's ease and flow for you in this whole autumn period, to do with your career, in terms of your ability and openness to attract money, the feeling of fate that you're on the right path with your career. You've got that defined well. And there are clues going on here in this Scorpio month where you're getting some real sort of idea about what you need to do to raise your productivity, which I think is going to be really helpful. Now, there's another trine, which I haven't put in because there'd be too many triangles on here, but there's another persistent trine that's going on. And actually right now, it's really already taking place. We've got Pluto here, we've got Uranus here, and then we've got the Sun right at the start of this triangle. And this is, I think, showing you where there's some very deep transformation in terms of your feelings of creativity to bring in passion in your life, with a deep, abiding sense of curiosity about the world, even though the world might feel a bit scary. And through broadening your horizons, there's this very deep impulse to really shake yourself, and to really question the person that you are. And this is something that's going to be leading you right the way through, from April of next year, when Uranus is back here right at the start. You're going to go through some real big shakes in your personality. But to me, you're becoming a lot more ready to accept the sort of passion in your life that you are really looking for. And so there's going to be some good aspects that are going to help. And obviously the moon's going to reconstitute this every month as well. So that's two of the really useful flows. But there's also a series of oppositions that are coming up. And, this is the time when we've had more oppositions, throughout this whole year. This is the opposition season. And it's very purposeful. We've got a lot of the slow moving things on this side, very much showing the unconscious mind and outside influences. And on this side of the chart, we've got consciousness, personal influences that are very close to home, that come up through the medium of our actual lives. So the sun is representing our identity, who we believe ourselves to be, and our ego, and showing us where our identity is at that particular time. We've got Mercury representing how we think, how we talk, how we share information, and also how we move about in our community. Venus is showing our ability to relate to others and to love and to share and to be generous and to care for people. It's very relatable. And then we've got Mars, which shows how we might feel a bit threatened sometimes, and how we might need to take action and be very purposeful and forceful. Not always forceful, but sometimes forceful. But it's very physical. And so you could say that this is your mind, your body, your heart, and your soul. Who knows how you might want to put this. But I really see the mind, body, soul, the head, the heart, the body, all of these. This is very personal, isn't it? You're going to be changed at a very personal level, and reacting to what's happening at a very impersonal level. Saturn and Neptune, Neptune in particular, currently is in the sign of Aries, and it's really waging a holy war, and it's also bringing us into direct action on spirituality. It could be bringing heaven to earth, because Neptune is highly ideological and very forceful, and Saturn wants to try and stabilize it and make it a bit more spiritual as well in the sign of Pisces. But these two are going to be over this point for quite some time, well into spring of next year. But these are really sort of unconscious shifts that are coming from out in across the planet. There are lots of new spiritual energies arriving and evolving, and that are moving and shaping the world, and that's going to have a knock-on effect. You're going to be having reactions to what's going on there. We are facing our own shadow thoughts about spirituality, mass emergence of thought, in particular where it's encouraging us to take action. Then there's Chiron. And, the Chiron represents the wound. And right now we've got collective wounds that are being triggered and opened up left, right and centre at the moment. There's I think, the Chiron wound, the chronic wound that, we might be aware of in the world is likely to be reactivated through these personal planets in this opposition. And so you might feel something really strongly. In fact, right as I'm recording this, Mars is already in an opposition with Chiron. Then next we'll have Mercury in an opposition to Chiron on the 3rd of October. So this is when we're getting a piece of the collective trauma, and we're feeling it at a personal level. We're identifying with it. It might not be that something's happening to us, but we're aware of feeling triggered because we're hearing about somebody else's trauma, or something that's happening in the world is hurting us. We're personalizing it. So this is another theme, and then Uranus, which is about consciousness and the shock and change of consciousness, the disruption that comes. It can really uncover a lot of uncomfortable feelings, because Uranus kind of shakes us all really to the core. And so Uranus, the need for change and innovation and disruption for change's sake. As we get conscious through our Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars of these changes that are going on in the world, we're going to be reacting to them. You know, this is what the other oppositions, I think, are really bringing to us. So there's a lot, you know, and oppositions, you know, where you've got planets here and planets sort of in opposition. Yeah, they feel like a massive drag, I'll be honest. And we do wonder, like, how can you move beyond them? They seem intractable. And yet I think every opposition is inviting us to cross over the bridge and to bring the unconsciousness directly into our conscious experience. So to me, this is giving you the opportunity to heal part of what's going on in the world in your personal life, through the medium of you getting on with your life. And for you, this is happening very much in the 5th and the 6th house. So it really starts off in the 5th, which is possibly touching on you as a parent. If you've got children, it's really talking about the things that you take great pride in enjoying, the things that you've created through passion, through the things that really light you up. This can also talk about through new relationships and intimacy, sexually. You may well get a lot of these triggers coming through a new relationship or coming through your intimacy. It might bring up a lot of questions for you. Also, if you're somebody who's very passionate and working on a lot of projects, you'll find that just by doing your projects, there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes up. So it's interesting because you might find that some of these unconscious outside influences are coming in through your networks, coming in through your social media, coming in through some of your, people of high status, sort of almost like they're directly mainlining their anxiety into you. And then as this season persists, you'll find that the other of these outside influences, you know, it's coming up. It appears to come in your unconscious mind via your intuition, and it's expressing itself in your day-to-day living. And so you've got an opportunity there to get very insightful and intuitive with your work if you want to. And it's almost like the voice of life right now is speaking through you, as if it's a tool for you to use, and that you can actually express the word of the world throughout your work. I think you could actually find quite a bit of purpose there. So that's a few of the big themes that are coming up for autumn. It's no mean feat. I hope you found this interesting and hopefully helpful in understanding why you might feel kind of pulled apart at the moment. It does feel like there's this area of unconsciousness which is coming from some of these big networks that play out in your life. And it's really going to be processed through you doing what you like to do and being very purposeful with your work and how you organise yourself. So I hope this is helpful and that you have a great autumn. And if you'd like to explore this at a much deeper level, then just get in touch. All of my details are below. I put my diary online. There's a link to my diary, so you can just invite me to work with you. So anyway, have a good one and catch up with you real soon. Lots of love. Bye for now. Hey there, Cancer. Let's have a look at the season ahead for you from the perspective of you having a Cancerian ascendant. So what I'm going to be doing in this short sort of 10-minute forecast is looking at the integration that's taking place over the next 3 months. There's a few prevalent patterns that are going on. I mentioned this in part 1 in some detail. One of the patterns is this lovely, beautiful Grand Trine. We've got Jupiter here. We've got the North Node here. They're coming in and out of a trine together throughout this 3-month period. And there will be a series of planets coming into the Grand Trine with them. We'll have the Sun, we'll have Mercury, Venus and Mars, and the Moon's going to make 3 laps of it as well. So this Grand Trine is going to be a consistent theme throughout this particular time. And this lovely Grand Trine is showing you that you can flow with yourself in a very creative and passionate way to create freedom. So this is a freedom flow, you could call it, and it's there to enliven you and to help you fall back in love with yourself. There's also another one which I haven't put on because it'd be too many triangles, but we've got this very strong trine between Pluto down to Uranus here. And again, there's going to be a reconstruction of this grand trine. Already Mars and Mercury have made an exact trine with these two. But we've also got the Sun, which is exact on the 24th, is going to be in this lovely trine. And then later on, Venus will also make it. And the Moon's going to be coming over this several times as well. So this one is really showing you that there's a new depth and flow in terms of things that are private, things that are a bit difficult, possibly things to do with ancient trauma, old patterns, really deep patterns. So that's ongoing. So you've got this one that's there to free you from ancient stuff and one that's there to help enliven you and to bring you forwards. But there's more. So we've also got the Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars all travelling through the same part of the sky at the moment. Mars isn't always with these guys. Mars has a different orbit, but right now they're travelling more or less together. And during this this autumn season where we're going through the signs of Libra, Scorpio and Sagittarius, all of them are going to be going through this. And on this side of the chart, we've got some real heavyweights. We've got Saturn and Neptune, we've got Chiron and Uranus. So Saturn and Neptune are dancing between this Pisces and Aries energy. By the end of this season, they'll both be in the sign of Pisces. We've got Chiron around about here in the sign of Aries. He's been there since 2018. And we've also got Uranus that's dancing between Gemini and Taurus. By the end of this season, Uranus will be back in Taurus. So they're very sort of packed in this area, and our personal planets will make oppositions with them. That's what all this is about. I'm not going to go into great detail about all of these because you can do quick searches on the internet and say, hey, what's the Mercury opposition to Chiron going to create? But I will give you a bit of a clue in this forecast. So these oppositions, I think, are really giving us the sort of backbone theme, the overall theme, and that is one of opposition, and that is one of bridging one side and the other. Now, the unconscious outside influences are often triggered by outside events. So things that are outside of our locus of control. They're often things that show up in the news. They're often things that happen in your communities. They're happening via other people. They could be market changes, government changes, rule changes, like the pandemic, whatever that was one of those outside influences that created more of a generational effect. It left a mark in society. And so, right now with Saturn and Neptune, Chiron and Uranus in this tight space, and also the fact that Saturn and Neptune and Uranus are also making this very interesting minor grand trine with Pluto right now. And they've been in this position for ages, and they're going to continue to be in this position for a really long time. So this is like well over a year and a half of them in this kind of position. They are really creating an outside energy that is having an unconscious pull on the generations that are alive right now. And so, it's very difficult to use this outside energy unless it gets bridged into one of the personal planets. And that bridging, I think, can happen via Jupiter and Saturn, but it can also, and I think this is also very useful, can also really happen by them being in an aspect. So we're going to have, Saturn and Neptune here. When they're being opposed, they've already been opposed by Mars, they've already been opposed by Mercury. But if we think about it, Mars is about the body, and very much about our drive. It's very physical. It's very much about things that are really felt in a really guttural way. It's about us taking action. Venus is about the heart and our relationship. It's about how we relate to everything around us, including the people. Venus is also a planet of flow. She's very feminine. She's very yielding. So you've got the thrusting, pushing energy of Mars and the yielding energy of Venus that's about relationships. And abundance. We've also got Mercury that zips around, moves very, very quickly. And Mercury is about the mind. It's about our communication, our thoughts, and what's added to it. And then we've got the sun, that's really about our personal identity and how we appear to be, and our ego, and what we're, more importantly, what we're radiating out. Like, what is our mission? What are we radiating out into the world? And so, Neptune and Saturn have already been activating the Mars energy in us very, very recently. And that will have brought up, or did bring up, some very strong energies, in particular energies against authority. Saturn represents authority, and Neptune Neptune and Saturn at the moment, in between like Pisces and Aries, I think is very warlike. It's very ideological. It's really giving us an idea on spiritual values and moral values, and making that the moral word, or the holy war. This is creating this energy of, it has to be like this, and if you're either with us or you're not. And that's really strong. And of course, in opposition to Mars, Mars is like, no, I'm not playing your game. No way. And so, Mars has set off a very big physical reaction in a lot of us about authority, and what authority might do, and what happens when authority overreaches, and also what happens when an ideological group has an area of overreach. And you can see it, you can see it sort of replicated or reflected back to us in multitude of ways. Chiron is showing us our core wounds. And like right now, as I'm recording this, Mars has just been in an opposition with Chiron. And so we get this very physical, strong sensation of wounding. We get this really big, like a punch right into the chest. Like when you're running around a playground at school and you fall and you wind yourself. It's a real sort of physical feeling of woundedness and upset. It's very, very raw, very fresh. Now, obviously, if Mercury goes into opposition with these, we'll have a different kind of energy. It's not going to be in the body, it will be in the mind. Uranus is really stirring us in terms of chaos, change. It's really about consciousness. So it's about a change in consciousness, and it's very disruptive. And sometimes it will pull the rug from underneath us, and it will be completely by surprise, and it will create that change. But that change, with Uranus, I always think the mass consciousness of everybody right now is what's creating all the chaos. And of course, every time something goes into opposition with Uranus, we're going to be feeling it at a personal level. So we're feeling these at a mind, a body, a heart level, and also at a spiritual level. And this is going to be happening throughout this whole period. Now, for you, the unconscious signs are really showing up in your 10th house and 11th. So to me, it feels like a lot of these unconscious patterns that you might be picking up about what's going on in the world, what's going on in your communities, and also what is maybe like I always use the fish analogy. If there's something wrong with a fish, it's in the water, and if the water gets poisoned, all the fish die. To me, it feels like we're swimming in the same psychic water as everybody else. It's not just one fish that gets it, everybody gets it. We're in this collective psyche, swimming around, wondering why we feel so crappy. And then you think, oh yeah, loads of other people are putting into it as well. Or we might be feeling brilliant, and that would be really great, because then we're really all brimming with the happiness in this water. But Uranus is really showing us that. And Neptune as well, you could say as well, because Neptune's deeply psychic. So these are very unconscious energies, and you might be picking them up more from work. So you might notice in your work, in your career, in your desire to be seen out front, how you make your money. You might be noticing that the nature of money feels a little off or a bit weird, and the consciousness around money is really shifting for you. You might also find thoughts of networking and like networks and how far and wide they spread. You might be getting lots of little messages via your networks, and so that might be the thing that is disturbing you right now and bringing you into this area of confrontation. Where you're feeling this and interpreting it is going through your 4th house, which is where you retreat to for security. It's your home, it's your family. And then also what is lifting you up, like your passions. And, your new relationships, your children, everything that you're creating yourself. And so what I really see for you in terms of autumn is it's really highlighting that the outer world is really speaking to you, and you've got to process it at a family level. It feels like it comes in. And, if you sit down at a night with your family and have a meal, you might be talking about it. You might be working it through as a family. You might be talking and finding out what everybody's view is. If you're a very creative person, you might be writing about it. You might be singing about it, creating music about it. You might be painting it. The fifth house is also romantic as well. So you might just find that in the beauty and glory of an intimate relationship, you're able to get that sense of support. But to me, this is, where you are right now is you're wanting to be here in this kind of home, in this place that's your world, not the outside world. So in many ways, you're pulling it in. And that also makes sense because every year at the time of the Libra equinox, the autumn equinox, the energy of the sun is tracking through these three parts of your chart, which is about home, your passions and your children, and then your day-to-day work, your day-to-day, how you are doing everything. What's your usual routine? What's your usual rhythm? It doesn't have much to do with the outside world. It's very much in this part here. So I do think you need to pull your family closer and really be as creative as possible to make the most of it. So, when I talk about oppositions, it sounds like we're coming into a time of mass resistance. And of course, that can be happening. And you can already see that reflected in the news and what's going on around us. But really, oppositions, I think, are inviting us to bridge both sides. Now, I always think of the left and the right. We've got two sides to our brain, the two hemispheres, and we can work together. To me, if you're using one side and one part of your chart exclusively and ignoring the other and saying, no, that's too much, you're missing a trick. And so to me, this is bringing you back into an integration and a cohesion. And my key words for this time is restore. This is about restoring everything because you can't ignore it anymore. The noise that's coming from this area of your chart is getting really loud. It's really you're not able to ignore it anymore. And so the next thing you have to do is let it cross over the bridge, and create space for it to come into your home in a way that's manageable for you and to be filtered via your creativity. So there were just a few thoughts there. I hope that was helpful for you, Cancer, in orienting yourself in this new season. Like I say, you've also got this beautiful grand trine that's going to keep coming up again and again, really encouraging you to be as creative as possible to find freedom. And you've also got this deep sort of archetypal churning of old stuff that you're releasing through the home as well. So wishing you a great autumn season. And, if you want to go deeper with me in a personal reading, then just check out my details below. If you go to my channel page or into the description below, you'll find links where you can just book directly into my diary. So I'll leave that with you. Lots and lots of love to you. Have a good one and catch you next time. Bye for now. Hey there, Leo. Let's have a look at what autumn might mean for you. I'm looking at this in a few different ways. I spoke for about half an hour at the start, really talking about some of the enduring energies that are coming up over this next season for the next 3 months. You can see that this next 3 months going through your Leo ascendant birth chart is going to be really activating your third, fourth and fifth house. To me, this is about your community and sense of belonging and your home and family. And then from that, when you feel really safe and really held, you'll be releasing that through creativity and your passions in life, and also possibly intimacy with your partner as well. Now, there are two really lovely grand trines that keep cropping up over the season. I've put one of them in because, there's too many things to put in otherwise. But there's this lovely Jupiter and North Node trine, and it's going to be reconstituted as a grand trine with Mars, with Mercury, the Sun, Venus, and also the Moon a few times. And this is really bringing you, I think, a deep yearning for a spiritual connection at home. It's really reminding you of all the trials and tribulations you've gone through historically with your family, your whole family line. It's reminding you of old memories. And also what really matters. And so to me, there's an emotional recalibration that's taking place. There's also a grand trine between Pluto and Uranus, and we're going to have the Sun and also Venus playing into this, and also the Moon as the Moon does her orbit each month. But this is, I think, really speeding up things to do with socialization. You know, the feelings that there are some very powerful people coming into your world, that your partners are super strong and transforming right now, and that there's a gentleness in your local community. So that's nice, you know, so there's this community movement that's supporting you. And also there's this emotional shift. But there's more. And this is the thing that I really want to get to. See, we're in the season now of oppositions. And we've got the Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars, which are going to be going through this part of your chart over the next 3 months. Venus is just here at the moment, but she will catch up. And then we've got Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, and then Uranus. At this other side. Now, these slower moving planets are known for having an unconscious kind of outside influence on us. So they often show things that are happening. Initially, they come in as a little bit of a fragrance, a subtle fragrance. You don't realize it's like the fog coming in. You know, it's like an influence that's going to affect a generation. It's affecting not just you, but it's affecting lots of people. And it shows outside thought. In particular, we've got a lot going on right now in terms of holy wars, the idea of spirituality and taking action on spirituality, making our ideological views on life what matters more than anything else. So that has really grown in importance. That's really influencing people at the moment. We've also got Chiron in the latter part of Aries in your 9th house. It's really showing where we felt quite raw and vulnerable. And so, you know, as we get these personal planets come into opposition with them, it's going to bring up some sticky feelings for sure. And we've also got Uranus dancing in between Gemini and Taurus. By the end of this season, he will be in Taurus. And Uranus is about the consciousness, the group consciousness, the consciousness of humanity and how it's influencing you. Right now, these are really affecting your 9th and 10th houses. A little bit of the 8th, a little bit of the 11th. But, you know, the 9th and 10th is where all the action's taking place. And to me, this is symbolizing your need to grow, or like these influences are encouraging you out of your home, encouraging you out of your community. And it feels like there's this subtle pull, like you're just being reached for and like pulled out of your community with your mind, with your body, with your heart, like things that are coming from like people you don't know, places you don't know, situations you don't know, seem to be really imprinting on your unconscious mind. And then in terms of your career, it feels like these outside influences are also making a difference in terms of what you're choosing to do right now, how you're choosing to show up. And so in this particular season, and there haven't been many oppositions this season, but we've got Mars currently up front. Then we've got Mercury. Mercury is going to go past Mars. And then we've got the Sun, and we've also got Venus. And we've got the Moon that's lapping round each month. Now, these 4 planets will be making, or have made already, oppositions to Saturn and Neptune, Chiron and Uranus. I've listed them all here that we're experiencing in this month ahead, in this season ahead, sorry. And also, you know, which signs they're going across, like Libra and Aries, Venus and Pisces, Virgo and Pisces, Sagittarius and Gemini, or Scorpio and Taurus. So you can see which polarity they're going through. But, you know, these oppositions are affecting us at a body level, you know, in terms of our volition, our ability to defend ourselves, our ability to feel strong, our heart with Venus, our mind with Mercury, and our identity and what we're shining into the world. And so, for instance, you know, I think at the first part of this autumn season, you know, like the sun that is like currently in an opposition to Saturn and Neptune, and Mercury still is. There is this real feeling of disillusionment in terms of your community and where you're living right now. It feels like there's stuff going on in the world that's asking you to deny your experience of your actual lived community. It just feels all odd. Mercury is also now moving into an opposition with Chiron. To me, there's stories, there's communication, there's words read, there's quick words and emails and messages. There's a sense of market changes, and it feels like things are coming from afar, very much from a religious nature, from your perspective as a Leo ascendant. It really feels like things are really coming through this idea of context. Like you should be religious, or you should be political, or you should be this, or you should be that. And it feels like stuff that maybe you're just not actually interested in right now, because what suits you more is to connect with what's right in front of you, that you see and can experience and feel with your five senses, and in real time, in real life. And so to me, it's kind of, from your perspective, as I tune into it, it feels like you're in this mystery world where everything is very real here, but then the idea of the outside world just seems nuts. It feels unreal. And so as this season goes on, you're being pulled into your home and your family a lot more, especially through this Scorpio, like around the time of Halloween and stuff. It feels like it's really important to sort of embed and look after yourself. And then as we're coming out the other side of it and coming more into late November and beyond that, the shake-up of it, the shake-up of the consciousness. What does this mean to your consciousness? How can you work this? So there are some very important weeks, I would say, and I'm just going to list them off now. Like the 11th to the 17th of October, there's a feeling of general dissociation with things on the outside. It feels like you can trust people that you know around you. However, there is this feeling of disconnect. This feeling of how can we not see this? How can we not understand each other? It's a bit of a mystery. And it's also picking up on any old wound that you've had about yourself and your own ability. Like the sun is also your ruling planet, which makes it so much more personal. The 29th of October to the 4th of November also feels like a really important time. So during that time, we've got Mercury in an opposition to Uranus. Mercury's here in Sagittarius, in opposition to Uranus. This is a time when it feels like almost like your creativity is threatened by other people's ideas. It feels like there's a groupthink that is preventing you from solo think. Almost like when you're following your own, following the things that light you up, it feels like the world is in revolution to what you know to be your truth. Venus in an opposition to Chiron is also like there's a feeling that you're connected at home, and yet the things that you've aspired to and the direction you've wanted to be in just now feels off, and it feels painful. And Mars opposition Uranus on the 4th is also, to me, it feels like it's not safe, and you need to defend your right to do things in your own way, especially if other people and groups are suggesting otherwise. And then beyond that, we've got the Sun in opposition to Uranus and Venus in opposition to Uranus. And this is, coming from your 10th house and into your 4th. So again, there's that feeling of wanting to keep everything as safe and comfortable at home, even though the outside world might seem shocking, unpredictable, shaky. And so, these are these sort of very much unconscious things that are going on versus the very real and felt things. So all in all, these oppositions are here to invite you to bring the unconscious and the conscious together. These are really helping you to sort of integrate the wide world into your own life, or at least to be able to process it and understand it. To me, this is about revival and it's about restoration, because without these moments of deep discomfort and feeling the polarity and the extremeness of it, you wouldn't really know who you were. So it might be feeling like it pulls you apart, but it's really there to help you restore yourself and to know yourself. And so when it gets difficult, I just advise that you get into this beautiful flowing trine between Jupiter and the North Node, and everything that comes through the sign of Scorpio. That to me is bringing you back. It's reminding you of your roots. And if you can focus on your roots, this autumn's going to be just fine. So I'm going to leave that there, Leo. Hope that was helpful for you. And if you'd like to work with me on a one-to-one basis, then all you need to do is check out my links. You can book directly into my diary and invite me to work with you. So it's very simple. You can find that on my channel page on YouTube, and you can also go into the description field underneath this video. But have a fantastic autumn, and catch you real soon. Bye for now. Hey Virgo, there's a lot going on in autumn, and there's a few big themes that I've picked up on that I want to give you a few heads up about. This is going to be just slightly over 10 minutes probably. In the first 30 minutes of this video, I spoke about all the different energies that are prevailing throughout autumn to give you a much detailed, much more information there. But for this, I really want to talk about how it's landing for you. Each time the sun goes into the sign of Libra, it's activating, the autumn for you is your second, third and fourth house. So this is about your money and your self-worth, and what you might do with it and how that might extend into your community. And then from that sense of belonging you get with your community, how does that bring you home? How do you feel completely at peace at home in your house? So there's a lot of materialism here because, on the one hand, you've got the money and the work that you might do to get the money. And on the other hand, you've actually got your physical home, your house. This is a lot here about the physical and also that belonging aspect. Now, there are two sets of planets I think are creating like this, a series of oppositions. Out of this whole year, this is the season of the oppositions, and I've listed the main ones that are taking place. Well, all of the oppositions between the planets, not the moon, but between the planets this season. There are a couple before, and they are affecting Mars, Mercury, the Sun and Venus in this part of your chart, which are all felt personally, like we react to them. Mars is about the body, your physical prowess, your ability to take action, to be able to know when to defend yourself and not. Venus is about your heart and your relatedness to other people. Do you feel like you want to work with people? Do you want to open up to people? Do you want to share? And the sort of generosity, the heart swell that happens between people. Mercury is about your mind and how you're communicating, and also how you're transacting in the world. And the Sun, I think, is really about how you're shining right now. What aspect of life is really coming through for you, and how can you allow that to shine through? So this is very, very personal. And you could say it's mind, body and soul. Mind body system, I don't know, but it's very complete, very personal. At this other side of the chart, you've got Saturn and Neptune dancing around Aries, Pisces. By the end of the season, they'll both be in Pisces. We've got Uranus in Aries, and we've also got Uranus in Gemini, but he will be coming back to Taurus by the end of this season. Now you'll see that's 4 planets in a really sort of like tight area. These are very slow moving planets that have an unconscious effect. They have a sort of generational effect, in particular Neptune and Uranus. Chiron as well, to some extent, but it's really influencing the collective thoughts, the collective condition, and whatever is prevailing is kind of held in the psyche of humanity. And of course, as fellow humans, we're all able to tune in and out of that. You could say we're living in it. We can't really step out and say, okay, you're on your own, humanity. We are part of this all together. And so it's very much about the unconscious influences, the hidden longings, the deep impulses, and maybe future visions of everybody. So you've got this very personal side, which is very much focused around your money and how you are in your local community, your friendships. It's a very, very busy part of your chart, really busy part, where these stories about you are getting stronger. And then there's this very sort of abstracted part of your chart where all this outside influence is coming in. And so some of this is coming in possibly ancestrally. You might be picking up on some of these themes via your relationships with other people, in particular your parents, your grandparents, in terms of any shared assets between you. You might be getting a sense of the difficulties and also some of the beautiful things about what's going on in the world right now during these times of change. And also, you know, there's the ninth house that's highlighted. The ninth house is everything that's foreign, everything that is outside of your narrative that you grew up with. And it's also very religious, very spiritual. It's also very political. So you might find that during this autumn season, you're feeling quite influenced by things from overseas, things that are highly religious or spiritual that maybe don't have anything to do with you or haven't had anything to do with you. Maybe it's just you felt it. And it's coming into you via your earnings, your thoughts about money, and also your thoughts about how you belong in the world. It's an interesting one because oppositions look like resistances. And they are very resistant. They're difficult to solve. However, every opposition is also inviting you to like cross over the bridge from this side to this side. It's really inviting you to work with both. So it's like, if you're sensing things are going on in the perimeters, these oppositions are going to get you a very direct, sensual, and I say sensual like the five senses, it's in your body, and also Venus is also very sensual. You're seeing it, and it's kind of surrounding you. You know, like the sun is shining out, but this is almost encroaching on your sunshine. And so each time one of these personal planets is going into an opposition with Saturn and Neptune, Chiron, and also Uranus, there is this deep feeling, a stirring. Now, most of these are happening starting with Mars, so we're feeling it in our body first. So is it an anger? Is it a feeling that we're unsafe? Is it a feeling that we need to put in a boundary? Do we need to hide away? Do we need to build up a survival kit? Excuse me. But Mars, the feeling of not being safe, the feeling of not being in full power, the feeling of maybe there's an attack approaching is strong, and it sets off a whole range of thoughts and feelings. Now, Mercury is also hot on the heels of Mars, and in fact, the last one with Uranus, Mercury's there first. See, you could think that Mercury is the news that reaches us, the conversations that you have around town, the conversation you might have with your partner. It's the spoken word. It's how you're relating to it. And so you may well find that you suddenly need to talk a lot more because new things are occurring to you. And that, again, I think will be the opposition. You might also find with this opposition that you feel like you can't talk. You know, like censorship is a strong theme at the moment. Anytime you're feeling that, that's the Mercury opposition with one of these planets. Venus, you might feel disconnected to people. The sun, you might feel like you're restricted from shining your light. So these are very, very strong things. And whereas normally, you know, we might say, okay, well, I don't like that. I'm going to move out of there. I'm going to go over here and it's going to be better. It's difficult to do that because with Saturn, Neptune, Chiron and Uranus, it's the pervasive psyche, the psychic energy that we're all living in right now. It's impossible. So to me, this autumn is about integrating it. It's about bringing both sides together. It's, you know, bringing this unconscious stuff across the bridge. Now, from your perspective, the more you're working and the more you're managing your money well and managing your resources well, the easier it'll go, because the second house is going to give you that feeling of comfort because you've got money, security because you might have resources like maybe water stores, food stores, whatever feels appropriate for you. I'm not saying you have to do that, by the way. I mean, that's my way of thinking because I I need to know we've got food. For you, it might be, have we got heat? Or have I got good communications? The more you can build up your list of resources, the safer you're going to feel. It might be that we have big forest fires and wildfires here in Portugal. And I remember one year, we made a plan, like an evacuation plan and a grab bag. It might be that you just have a kind of contingency plan. And the more you can do that, the safer you'll feel. Like, resources are very important to you. And then as we go through this, you're coming into the neighborhood, the third house of community, and learning and sharing, and siblings and friends and peers and things. And so to me, this is, you're not doing this alone. Whatever's going on in autumn, you don't have to do it alone. This is inviting you to share your concerns, share your thoughts, and process anything that feels off in the company of people around you. This is about finding a local tribe. And so as this goes on, you should feel much safer. Ultimately, this is bringing you home. This is bringing you back to ideas of where is home, what is the nature of home about, and how do I protect my family, and how can I enjoy my family in the way that I do. And so there's two other things I want to share with you. There's also this Grand Trine that's going to reinstate itself many times. So we've got the North Node in Pisces, we've got the Jupiter in Cancer, and we've got the Moon, Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and Venus all going to be coming across this point several times. And to me, this is showing that there's a lot of support for you, like a feeling of spiritual support. It feels like actually the people who are supporting you in life right now, they are part of your life journey. It's not just a coincidence that you've got these people. It feels like maybe you've been doing this for lifetimes with people. So this is a real gift, not to be sort of ignored. And then the other big sign or energy, we've got Pluto in your 6th, Uranus in your 10th, and then we'll have the Sun and Venus and also the Moon several times. We'll be activating this Grand Trine here from money, productivity, and career. To me, it feels like there are opportunities to reach out and see into the world via your career that feel safe. It's almost like when I feel like I'm doing it via my career, it feels safe to consider what's going on in the world. And I think when you're doing things through the medium of your career, things can feel quite exciting, and also it can reassure this need for resources that you have. So that's some of the thoughts that I have for you for autumn, Virgo. I hope that's helpful. If you want to go deeper with me, then you might consider working in a consultation, a Zoom call with me, or have me do a reading for you. If you want to do that, if you want to follow that yourself, then go to my channel page on YouTube, or check out the description field below, and there's links where you can just book directly into my diary. So I'll leave that with you, Virgo. Have a great autumn, and catch up with you another time real soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Libra. I'm looking now at the autumn for you, autumn 2025, to see how this season's going to go. Earlier in this video, for the first half an hour, I was really talking about the prevailing energies, some of the aspects that are going on pretty much throughout the whole 3 months and what they might mean to you. And so what I want to do is break it down a little bit further from your perspective as somebody with a Libra ascendant. Now, what I noticed straight away is from your perspective as a Libra and ascendant, this season is going to be really hitting up your first, your second, and your third houses. So this is really the first month is really about your personality, your appearance, your body, how you feel in your body, you know, like how people experience you when they first meet you. So there's a lot going on there about your core identity. The second house is very much about your earnings, and also how you feel about earning, you know, how you feel about your resources. Do you feel like you've got enough? Do you want more? And do you feel like you deserve more? And then the third house, I think, takes the idea of your productivity and also your identity, and it takes it into more of a community level. You know, it takes it further, you know, so this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is how I apply it to the people around me, the people I like, the people I belong to. So, you know, it's an interesting one. And I suspect every time that this season comes up, when autumn starts, you come into yourself, you come into your own. Now, There's a couple of grand trines that are going to form and reform throughout this season. But before I talk about those, I actually want to consider the energies of these two groups of planets. So the first group, and again, I spoke about this in the first 30 minutes. If you want more in depth, check that out. But we've got Saturn and Neptune. Neptune's just in Aries, but is heading back into Pisces. Saturn's already in Pisces, but they're in a long-term conjunction. I really liken this to being at war, being, very ideologically possessed. The energy of possession, the energy of spiritual warfare, standing up for what you believe to be morally right. And so I do think this is a point of activism, in the world at large. These outside influences here, I've said they're unconscious outside influences, they're highlighted by these slower moving planets. So we've got Saturn and Neptune. Then we've got Chiron, known as the wounded healer, though he's much more than that. But he does definitely allude to great trauma and the unraveling, the woundedness that can incapacitate us. And then we've also got Uranus as well, that is currently in the sign of Gemini, but is heading back into the sign of Taurus and will be in Taurus as winter starts. So, these three energies right now are going to be impacted one way or another, or already have been, by these personal planets. See, the Sun, Mercury and Venus are always moving together. They're always within a certain distance from each other. But Mars doesn't always fit in with that. But at the moment, he is currently moving with them. And so you've got all of them. And so Mars is really representing the body, the physicality that we experience, and also our desire to take action. Venus is about our heart and how we're relating to others, how we open up, how we might share. It's also about flow. Mercury is showing how fast we can adapt to things and also think things through and communicate. And also it works with transactions. And the Sun is our ability to share and emote and shine our light in the various ways that we feel like we can. So it really is picking up on the whole gamut of personal expression. And of course, the moon is always going around. And, for a quarter of each month, the moon is going to be in this section as well. And so not only is the moon going to make an opposition to all four of these, but the Sun is, Venus is, Mars has already made a couple of these movements already. He's currently in an opposition to Chiron. Mercury is currently in an opposition to Saturn and Neptune. So they're all going to come into this opposition. So this is a season of oppositions. We've had a couple of oppositions before, but this is the main season starting now. And it's going to be very different because of the oppositions. Oppositions are kind of pulling things apart, where you feel like you've got this on one hand and this on the other. It really shows where there's resistance and stubbornness, and where people are holding their line, but looking at the other as opposition, like it is oppositional, literally. But I think that every opposition, really, there exists the potential to invite the other side across the bridge. And so really I see that this unconscious side, heavily unconscious side, is going to be made conscious through your first and second house mainly. So let me talk about this a little bit more. So first of all, the unconscious energies that you're processing, and when I'm talking about the unconscious, you might be aware of these things in your unconscious mind, like there are archetypes, stories, archetypal stories that are probably growing in your mind at the moment and coming into being. Like you might have heard about Charlie Kirk's assassination, and according to what your political beliefs are, that will most likely bring up an archetypal story according to what your belief systems are. So your personal triggering, your personal belief systems will turn it into an archetypal story, which Saturn, Neptune, Chiron and Uranus will all be holding in place for you at some level. But there's obviously more than an assassination, not to belittle it, or to condone it or anything like that, or to have any judgment on it on this channel at all. There's lots of different things going on in the world right now. And so the unconscious stories are really coming to you via the via your partnerships, and that includes your clients as well, through the people that you're interacting with, through people that you really count on and really have close personal relationships with. And then also people you've got ancestral relationships with, including people like your birth family, your grandparents, and also your siblings, I would say. I know this is about siblings down here, but you know, the people you grow up with and how you share the resources of the family, and also some of the trauma that has come up. This place here is about trauma. So I really think with the unconscious energy of Uranus sort of dancing around here right now, and him having just been recently in this 8th house, to me, it has freshly awoken a lot of stuff that has probably, you know, been buried underground for a long, long time, but it's brought it up. Uranus really brings a feeling of chaos, and it's about a change in consciousness. And obviously a huge change in consciousness can really stop and start things and really create a sort of drastic, chaotic event. So, you know, these are very stirring archetypes, you know, bringing up stories of like deep impulses, hidden longings, also future visions that you might have for yourself, that are influenced by the outside space. So friendships are bringing it in, your partner's bringing it in, your interactions with people, especially things that are touching on deep personal pain and the stories of your childhood. So these are coming through to be worked on in terms of your actual identity right now. And so your experience of Saturn and Neptune, like we've had Mars in an opposition with them both already. Like Mars is leading the way, apart from with Mercury, you know, with the Uranus oppositions that are coming later on in this season. Mercury's the first one to go into opposition with Uranus, then comes Mars, then comes the Sun, and then comes Venus. Venus is last with all of these. So let me explain these a little bit. So with these oppositions, with these oppositional feelings, mostly what's happening is we're being led by our physical feelings in our body. Now for you, this is going to be very much in your body, because the first house is all about the body and it's all about our appearance. And so you might feel things in terms of you're worried about your appearance. You feel like there's an attack on your image or an attack on your name. It feels like things are really personal. So when things are coming in, like these big stories from outside, it appears to be kind of landing in a really sort of personal place, because it's about your identity. Then Mercury is coming in, and it's the conversations that we might be able to process what's going on through conversation. So you might be writing to yourself, you might be having conversations with someone close to you. But this is about, what does this mean to me? How can I process this? What does this mean about how I come across, how I look? What does this mean about my body? And so everything, like whatever stage of life you're in with your body right now, it's a really important time that you come back into alignment with it and don't fall out with your body because of something you're feeling from over here, from outside awarenesses. Then the sun is getting involved. And to me, it feels like our ability to shine, our ability to, or your ability, because this is your chart, isn't it? Your ability to shine right now may be feeling a little bit restricted. So, you know, in the opposition to Saturn, that's actually going on right now. You might feel a little bit like authority is stopping you from shining and being yourself. With the opposition to Neptune, you may well be feeling a little bit disengaged and thinking, oh, what's the point? Again, I can't shine. What's the point? Nobody will hear me. Nobody will see me. You know, as the sun comes into an opposition with Chiron, again, all the dates are down here. You can see it all written there. As the sun comes into an opposition with Chiron, there's a feeling of it's not okay to be me. It's painful being me. You know, so it starts off with the body, then there's a conversation, and then it's like, the beingness is difficult. And then finally, Venus, it's like, how are you going to relate to this? How are you going to make sense of this? I mean, Venus is quite a healer, you know, and Venus is all about forgiveness as well. And so you might find when these Venus oppositions come in, you might be feeling a bit separate initially, But to resolve it, it's about pulling things closer and coming into forgiveness about your own reaction, and also forgiving the people that might be triggering you via these old archetypes. So there's a lot going on. To me, it just feels like whatever's going on in your relationships and your early your early childhood relationships are creating a bit of a stir in terms of how you identify and think about yourself. And of course, that has a knock-on effect in terms of your earning potential, because if you don't feel valued in some way, it's going to have a knock-on effect. So there's a lot to be working through in this season for sure. Now, there's some really helpful things, and I want to share these with you as well. So we've got Jupiter here in the 10th house currently, and also the North Node in the 6th. And throughout this season, we're going to have the Moon, Mars, Mercury, the Sun and Venus all make this mythical third point in this grand trine. And so there's going to be this re-emerging grand trine coming up again and again and again. To me, this is reminding you that when you put your heart and soul into something, when you feel like you're on a soul-led drive about your career, about your purpose, when you're looking at everything from a purpose base, in fact, it's there to restore the hope in you. It's there to remind you who you are and how you're shining your light, no matter how fractured the world might seem right now, and how that might reverberate in your life. And so this reverberating grand trine, I think, is there to reassure you. We've also got another grand trine that's coming up as well. And the Moon is going to affect it, Venus is going to affect it, and the Sun right now is really affecting it. The Sun is working with it. So you've got the Sun just here, Pluto and Uranus, and these are really highlighting the freedom that you can feel when you're following your passion and also excited about everything that's not what you know. So it's encouraging you to find freedom and passion, and use that in your identity. So to me, this is actually quite an exciting time. The more you can connect into your purpose at a soul level, and the more you can connect into the idea of things are freeing up for me, I am meant to be free, I am meant to be passionate, that's really great. And then in processing these very sort of outside unconscious influences, you'll be feeling them at a personal level, but face it, this is not meant to be stuck. You're not meant to be in resistance. You're meant to be inviting the unconscious energies of disengagement, pain, wounding, and chaos, and processing them through at a very individual level. So I don't know if that's helpful for you at all, Libra. To me, what this is saying is this is a very deep and personal season ahead. But if you want to unpack this with me at a much deeper level, just me and you, then all you need to do is look at my channel page, and you'll see a link where you can just directly book into my diary. So I'll leave that with you. Anyway, have a great autumn and catch you next time. Bye for now. Hey Scorpio. Now, this is the start of autumn, and yeah, it's an interesting one. Every time autumn starts, when we have the equinox in September, it's bringing and highlighting these three areas of your chart. You know, from the start of autumn to the start of the winter solstice, the December solstice. So this is highlighting your 12th house, which is the place where you might go to sleep. It's the place of your unconscious mind. You might not be full in your energy right now. It's definitely a very reflective place where you're letting go of a lot of stories that have been currently running for quite a while. It's time to end those. And then in a month in, you're going to be in the Scorpio side of this, when you're really coming into your power and really feeling the individuality and the passion that you have for yourself. It's really encouraging you to find your new pattern and to start your new story. So there's an ending of a story, then it's what's my personal story, and that's leading into just before the winter solstice comes in. It's highlighting how you feel about yourself has a knock-on effect in terms of your resources and how you manage your resources, and how, what's your self-esteem like. So to me, this is a place of discovery, and every time that the sun comes through these three houses, this is really helping you rediscover yourself in a new way. Now, there's two grand trines that I'm going to be mentioning, and also this opposing energy And I want to start with the oppositions first, because throughout the year there's been lots of different patterns. You will have a season where there's lots of trines and sextiles, and it just so happens that, and squares. And right now, the season we're in right now is all about the oppositions. And there's so many. And these oppositions, it's happening because we've got 4 very slow moving planets. Actually, one of them's an asteroid or a centaur, or even a comet. Chiron's got a few different classifications, but we've got Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, and then Uranus. They're all within 60 degrees of each other, all working very tightly together. And it just so happens that in this season, in particular in the first 2 months of this season, we have got Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and Virgo, and Venus in that order, because currently Mars is ahead in the sign of Scorpio. So Mars, Mercury, the Sun. Venus is just in here right now, but she's going to be moving into Libra soon. That's going to be good because she rules Libra, by the way. And we've also got the moon that's going to be looping around every month. And of course, for 1 week of every month, so for 3 weeks in total in this whole season, the moon is going to be actively in this area. And so what's happening right now, as I'm recording this, we've got Mars in opposition to Chiron. We've got Mercury and the Sun in opposition to Saturn and Neptune. And these are causing a disturbance in the field. So these are very much these outside influences. The further out in our solar system you go, the harder it is to personalize the energies of each of these planets. They're really showing up as a whisper, like a generational whisper that is heard in the psyche of humanity. It is like an echo in the, like I always think of fish in the water. If something's going wrong, one fish dies, you check the water out, and if like the water's really bad, all the fish will go. And so we're all kind of swimming in the same water. If one person is having trauma, and there's lots of people we're led to believe that are in immense levels of trauma right now, and disturbance and confusion and uprising and uproar. And so their energies are in our collective psychic water right now. And so we've got all of these influences, and this is what we're picking up. Now, it just so happens that these personal planets, when they go into an opposition with a planet, they're really working with the energy. Even though they're in opposition, it looks like they're in resistance, they're holding separate positions. But to be able to move through an opposition, I think it's an invitation for you to bring this unconscious energy across the bridge and transform it through your personal planets. And so this is how you get to take on some of the energy of the world and work through it so you understand it. When you're pushing a lot of stuff away and saying, no, that's nothing to do with me, you're denying, like, at some level, you're denying the whole human reality. And it's not to say you have to go in and go into sorrow or anything like that, but to me, this is about finding a revival in yourself. This is about restoring things. And to restore the balance, we have to allow this unconscious to come in and change us. The outer planets really do describe what happens each generation. And there are some very, very strong generational markers going on right now. So, as this goes through, this is going to affect you at an individual personal level. Like Mars is one of your ruling planets. Of course, Pluto's the other, and I'm going to mention Pluto shortly. Venus is all about how you're processing this in terms of sharing and your heart. Mercury, the mind. Sun, your shine. So, I think what's going on right now with Mercury and the Sun in the opposition, with Saturn and Neptune, is really bringing up a lot of disillusionment, where some of your old stories are passing away because you realise actually some of the things that are going on in the world make no sense. You can't make them make sense either. And that there's a highly energized holy story right now. There's a real sort of ideological story that is perpetuating throughout the world that is not serving you. And so it's like you see it, you think it over, you maybe like write about it, notice what it means to you, and then you might say, okay, I've seen it, I've witnessed it, but this is not for me. So it's not like you're closing off, but you're actually observing what's going on so that you know that it's not for you. You know, this is how you're letting go of it. With Mars right now in opposition to Chiron, you know, Mars is just at the beginning of your first house. This is about you coming back into your vitality, feeling really, really vital. And yet you might find through partners, you might find through your day-to-day, and your work life and the story about how everyone transacts at work. You know, the old story that we work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Of course, not many people actually do that now. Most people work all week round in all sorts of various hours. But the idea of the normal life, the normal narrative, is just being completely obliterated. And in fact, holding that story that this is what a normal life looks like is actually causing pain. So you might find that, you know, your story about you and what your life means and how that relates to you as a person needs to be updated. You know, if you're holding on to this imagination, like this Cinderella story of, oh yeah, I get up Monday to Friday, I do this, and then I go home, and you know, everything I earn pays my bills, and yeah, everything's great. If you're holding that like Cinderella story, this rags to riches story, that if you work hard, everything's going to go well, you might be really hurting yourself because it's not the reality. And so Chiron is really showing us that right now. I say us because I've got Scorpio Ascendant too. And so Mars in your first house, you might be making a decision about yourself. Well, I'm going to put some boundaries up. I'm going to determine what determines my worldview and how I organize my life. So it's about seeing the story for what it is. It's a story, but making sense of it in a new way. And that might involve making a decision, you know, about what you're going to do going forwards. So a lot of this sort of unconscious outside influences are coming into you via the collective story of how people manage their life, and then through your partners and how they're bringing you into the outside world. But it's all being processed at this very sort of personal and individual level. Now, there are two other things that are really going on right now. The first one, the one I'm going to talk about first, I haven't put it on this chart, but you've got Pluto down in the 4th right now, Uranus in the 8th. They're going to be like that this whole season. And then we've got the sun. We've also got the moon going around, and Venus is going to come into this point as well. So we've got this grand trine that's here at the moment, really strong, helping us to reclaim our psyche. To me, it's saying you don't have to be influenced by the outside world. You can actually get your own mental sovereignty. To me, these are very, very private houses to have air signs in, you know. So, the story of your childhood and what it is to be a family person, to be at home in life, the story of trauma of growing up with parents and how you manage all of the shared assets between you and people close to you, like how you share, I think is a really big story. And then, you know, about your mind. To me, this is a really great opportunity to reprogram your mind with new, more positive stories that are going to work. So I really see that there's a strong storytelling energy right now for you that will serve you. And then the last thing that I really see coming in, excuse me, the last thing, I've been talking quite a bit, the last thing I see coming in is this reconstituted grand trine. We've got Jupiter here in your 9th, we've got the North Node in your 5th, and we've got all of the personal planets that's going to come in and make the 3rd corner again and again and again. And each time this comes, like our personal planets come into this part of your chart, it's going to restart and re-trigger this triangle. And this triangle is saying your identity, your creativity and your passion in life and your feelings of freedom are something that are awakened through your emotions and your soul. So the more you can tune into your emotions through passion and creativity and your sense of freedom, the more you're coming back into yourself. So that's where I want to leave you. This is a really big season for you. As I said, it's stirring away all the old stories so you can create something new for yourself. So have a good one, Scorpio. And if I can be of any help, like if you want to unpack your chart with me in person, then all you need to do is check out my channel page or check the details in the description underneath this video and just literally book yourself into my diary. It's as simple as that. I'll leave that with you. But anyway, have a great season ahead and catch up with you next time. Bye for now. Hey Sagittarius. So this is the start of autumn, and every time autumn starts, once the sun goes straight across the 0 point Libra, we get this 3-month season. And it's activating your 11th house, your 12th, and then your 1st. To me, this is about the story from the outside to the inside. So the first month, the Libra month, is very much holding you in the place of collaborations, lots of busyness with other people. It's really encouraging you to collaborate and to enjoy the collaboration. There's a lot in there for you. And then that gives way to the Scorpio month, which is really a time of resting your mind, resting your energies, letting some of the stories of the last year go. It's a time to refresh yourself. And then that in itself gives way for the space for you to awaken again in the last of these months, whereby you start to create new stories. So yeah, you're starting from the outside, other people almost having a hand in your stories with you as you're collaborating, coming into your own silence, and then coming out the other side, like brimming with life, ready to take on the world and create new stories. So it's quite an important season for you, I would say. It's one where there's a lot of internal change from the out to the in and then back out. Now, in the first part of this whole video, I was talking about some of the pervasive energies for this whole 3-month period. And so what I want to do is talk about 3 that really occur to me. The first is this whole season of oppositions. I've got a whole list of oppositions here. They're all taking place between the personal planets, Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, and Uranus. So I've got Saturn and Neptune, Chiron, and Uranus here, all within 60 degrees of each other. And, excuse me, I need to cough. 1 second. All this talk about bringing the unconscious out into the conscious is really stirring something in my chest. So yeah, these slow-moving planets are really showing sort of generational energies and the impact that they're having on us. They're all 60 degrees of each other. And they're impacting currently the part of your chart about your creations and the power that you have to create in your own way without having to get other people involved. And also the idea of your work and your life, your livelihood, and how your life fits together and what constitutes a healthy life. And so it feels like these areas are almost littered with other people's opinions, generational ideas, ideas that are coming in via politics, via religion, via spirituality, because of Saturn and Neptune, Uranus here, and also Chiron. So to me, there's a lot of unconscious, hidden longings, deep impulses, future visions, many of which that have nothing to do with you, but that are coming in via the world that we're living in right now. And then we've got the personal planets, you know, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and also the Moon that's going to make a rotation each month. So we've got 3 of those. So for 1 week of the next 3 months, so 3 weeks in total, the Moon is going to come and activate this whole area. And so we've got these planets that are coming into opposition with each other. And when they come into opposition with each other, we're really tuning into these unconscious stories and feeling them personally. Now, a lot of people think of oppositions as being times when there's a lot of resistance and there's nothing you can do about it. It just feels like there's, on the one hand, there's this, on the other hand, there's that. And of course, it's really difficult to live a peaceful life when you're holding opposing thoughts all the time or dealing with opposing energies. And so I think this is a very transformational opportunity for us to invite the unconscious over the bridge into this part of our chart where we're dealing with things at a personal level. And so I think, you know, as I'm recording this, we got the Sun and Mercury right now in opposition to Saturn and Neptune. Now, you know, Mercury is about our thoughts and our communications. And in opposition to Saturn, it's really bringing up thought police, censorship. It's also bringing up ideas of suspicion about authority. And we're talking about it. Or we're talking about how difficult it is when we feel like authority is so far away and it's not something we can understand in a real sort of practical here and now way. Now, the sun is about how we shine and how we're able to show the world who we are. And of course, in opposition to Saturn, we feel very judged and we feel very shut down and censored. In opposition to Neptune, we feel, well, what's the point? Why bother? No one's going to listen. We feel a bit apathetic. And, you know, with Saturn and Neptune down here, they're fighting a bit of an ideological war right now. It appears that anyone that has moral value or substance is doing X, Y, Z. And if you're not doing X, Y, Z, then you must not have any moral fibre. So there's a lot here that can really hurt a person. And so it's important not to ignore this, but to look at it and recognise that this is showing up. These are archetypal stories. These are stories that might have been seeded years ago in your psyche from your childhood. And, you know, they're playing out. They're there for you to see, for you to understand, and then say, okay, I've seen that now. Now I can make a different choice. Now, right now, Mars is also in an opposition to Chiron. You know, Mars currently in the sign of Scorpio, which I think is great because I've got Scorpio rising and he's a ruler of Scorpio. Mars is bringing us really back into our bodies, encouraging us to look at our own survival and encouraging us to be much stronger than we've been in a long time. It's great. But in opposition to the collective wound. So anywhere where we're tuning into the collective wound, it's bringing us physical pain. Not real physical pain, but as we're translating what is around us, there's a level of feeling that's going on in our bodies. And so that's another one of these oppositions that we can recognize. You might ask yourself, who does this belong to? I'm feeling this. I don't think this is mine. Who does this belong to? Where does this come from? So all these survival things, you know, once you ask who does this belong to, you get some space from it. You start to say, oh, yeah, okay, that came on when I heard about this news. Isn't that funny? So we are learning how we're influenced by these outside unconscious influences so that we can redefine who we are. But we wouldn't see that to be able to redefine ourselves. If these didn't exist, we would have no need to redefine ourselves or relearn who we are. So this is really, really big stuff that we're going through. And of course, when things go into opposition with Uranus, and all those dates are coming up, starting on the 29th of October, right the way through to the 30th of November, so a month, just over a month. When the Uranus oppositions kick in, and these are going to be in opposition to your rising sign, your first house, so it will be felt. And these oppositions are really challenging because it shows, you know, they are on the one hand really showing where the people in your life are seeming unconventional, irresponsible. They're changing a lot. And the chances are they're changing because of what's going on around the world. So you may well find that the consciousness of people is slightly chaotic. It's slightly discordant. It feels off, feels really off. And it's causing a feeling of, I've got to get out. I've got to separate. I've got to detach. You know, Uranus is a chaotic planet. It brings in things that are different, that feel jarring. And it's in that jarringness of things that we get these uprisings that it's like lancing a boil, you know, it comes out. And that's a real Uranus thing. And so this is going to stir us. As we come to the end of this season, the planets are all, the personal planets are all coming into your first house, and then it starts to get a bit more peaceful. So I do think after the 30th of November, in particular when Venus is out of this opposition with Uranus, there's going to be a little bit more peace. But yeah, the next 2 months in particular, it's going to really stir things up in terms of how you are feeling about the people you're collaborating with, up close and personal. the busyness. I suspect that by the time we get to the end, or like midway through October, you are going to be feeling ready for a rest, because you're going to be like, everyone's nuts. I just need some rest. I need some space. And this is where the next bit comes in. So we've got these 2 grand trines, which I think are great. The first one I'm going to start is actually here. I didn't put it on the chart, but Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini, and then we've got the Sun. We will also have Venus, and we'll also have the Moon 3 times going over this spot. Every time the Sun, Venus, or the Moon go over this spot, there is an activation of this grand air trine. And this grand air trine is really showing you that even though the world is nuts, truly, there are changes coming in your relationships, and this could be very, very exciting. It's not meant to be terrifying. It's showing that the people around you are starting to transform. It might be bringing a whole new bunch of people into your world, people who are very, very strong and feel very local and close, people who are eclectic and who want to partner with you, and then also people you can relate to at the level of vision. So there's going to be some great people coming into your world. So that's something to look forward to. But the last thing that I want to share with you is this reconstituting grand water trine that's coming up again and again. So we've got the North Node here. We've got Jupiter in Jupiter in Cancer. And then every time one of these personal planets, and also the Moon 3 times, when it goes over this point, we're going to have this lovely grand trine energy, energizing your psyche, energizing your home, making you feel a lot more at home in yourself, helping you feel more restored. So Sagittarius, this season, it's one of contrast for sure. And, like I said, it starts off really quite social. Then you're coming into yourself to process it. But as you're coming out the other side, you really will have left a load of stories behind. You will have been challenged to do that. And I do think you'll be restored. I do think you're going to be coming in for quite a big revival. So I'm going to leave that there. I hope that was helpful to you to understand some of these bigger energies. Certainly a lot going on. Now, if you want to examine this with me in a private session, then all you need to do is go to my channel page, and in the description underneath this video, you'll see how you can just book directly into my diary. That's what I invite you to do. You invite me to work with you, and we'll just take it from there. So I'll leave that with you. Have a great one, and catch up with you real soon. Bye for now. Hey Capricorn, let's have a look at autumn for you and what's coming up as a persistent theme, possibly a good theme. Definitely going to be talking about how to manage the energies over this next 3-month period. So autumn always starts every year when the sun goes into the sign of Libra. So 0 Libra, and it takes us right the way through to when we get to 0 Capricorn. So it's 3 months, and I'm going to call them the Libra month, the Scorpio month, and the Sagittarius month. And so what I noticed, and forgive me, I put a lot of detail into the first 30 minutes, talking about like an overview of what's going on for us in the world. But what I want to share with you in this short video is about 2 grand trines that are reconstituting over and over again, but also about this oppositional energy that we're coming into. So I'm going to start with the oppositional energy, and I'm going to end on these grand trines, because the ending on the grand trines is like a big finale. So the thing that strikes me about this particular moment in time, and this is more generic to your ascendant Capricorn, and that is every time you're going into the autumn season, the 10th house, the 11th and the 12th house are the houses that are emphasized. And so this is you being the king of the castle in the first month of autumn. This is about you exploring your majesty, your legacy, your level of influence and power, and potentially financial security with it, your career options. And then it moves a month later into a very sort of collaborative place, whereby it feels like there are lots of opportunities to play around, to hang out, to meet with people with great levels of influence, and to leverage with each other and to create, pretty good visions future visions that may be exciting. And then as we come into the last month of autumn, it's always a time, possibly when you crash and burn, but it's a time when you start to let go of what has been achieved, start letting go of those stories, and you start to come into a quiet time. You start to come into yourself a lot more, and you pull away from this highly social, which is here, this highly social energy, and also this highly motivated energy. You're coming back into yourself a little bit more to rest up. And the great thing is, when we come into the next season, you hit the ground running and you're really defining yourself and creating new stories. So that's the first part of this story. This is almost culminating and celebrating your success and then coming in to end the story. Okay, that's the first bit. So during this time, we will have the Sun, Mercury and Venus. Now, we always have the Sun, Mercury and Venus coming through these three signs, usually around each other. They are always within a certain, distance from each other from the way we're viewing them. And so they're always working in similar parts of the sky. So that's nothing new. But this year we've also got Mars in. Now Mars has got a 2-year orbit. So he's not always working with these planets at all, but they are working very closely together. So that's a bit unusual. On the other part of the chart, we've got this Saturn-Neptune energy here. Saturn's currently in Pisces and Neptune's in Aries. We've also got Chiron in the sign of Aries. He's been there since 2018. And then we've also got Uranus that's currently just in the sign of Gemini, but moving back into Taurus over the course of this season. Now, during this time, and again, they're very sort of close together. They're all within 60 degrees of each other throughout this whole period and beyond for quite some time. So we've got a load of very slow moving outside planets. These are referred to as unconscious energies, really representing things that we're really not consciously aware of, but there's a part of us that is activated by them. It can really show us our deepest impulses, our hidden longings. It's also very much speaking about the consciousness of humanity, not just our consciousness, that things that we're consciously aware of, but our connection to humans, our connection to people across the planet, in different countries, with different political situations, with different religions and spiritualities. It's the mass consciousness. And, Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction together are highly ideological and spiritual right now. Saturn is giving Neptune some more strength, and Neptune is really bringing Saturn into the idea of spirituality in a really big way. So they're working together, and, they are creating quite the stir. I really see that there are these holy wars, these very strong ideological causes that are really standing tall in our hearts and our minds, and lots of us are very swayed by this. This is absolutely felt in the collective consciousness at the moment. Chiron in the sign of Aries has been there since 2018, and really since Chiron's been in the sign of Aries, I do think we've come into a time of offence. We've come into a time of being identified with the things that upset us. I don't really remember this before. I really, this is really quite new and really strong. And so we're definitely in this kind of space of triggering. And then Uranus, in the sign of Gemini, is speeding up matters of consciousness and giving us lots of messages about consciousness and a free-flowing, more challenged version of what consciousness is. There's so many different surprises. And so this is very fast moving and creating a sort of generational shift in quite a big way. And so as our personal planets are going through, in particular, these first two signs of this autumn period, they're going to go into opposition with these planets. I've listed all the oppositions here, and also the first letter of the signs that they're going through, like Libra and Aries, Virgo and Pisces, Sagittarius, Gemini, and also Scorpio and Taurus, just so you know where they are. But yeah, they're going to be hard hitting, and we're going to be feeling them with our personal bodies, with our with the Mars, we're going to feel them. You know, we will really feel something in our bodies, like an instinct, a drive. Currently, Mars is in the sign of Scorpio, so he's already here, ahead of the other three planets. I should also say the moon's going to go through this 1 week out of every month. And so, you know, the moon is going to go through this and make oppositions 3 times during autumn. So yeah, Mars, when Mars is in opposition to one of these planets, we're going to feel something very palpable in our body, and we'll feel this survival mechanism kick in. And we will also be, I think, concerned with taking action. And we'll be trying to understand what it is we're feeling. You know, Mars is always looking at security and survival and how to thrive. So this is big. Venus is going to be feeling a possible disconnection. You know, Venus oppositions show where we get disconnected from relating to people. And so we might feel that we are coming out of trust and coming out of hope. And feeling sadness, feeling a sense of grief. And so I do think that's likely to be something that's coming up. Mercury will be shocked or delighted or excited by lots of different new thoughts. And there'll be lots of activated conversations, some of them very heated, I'm sure. And then the sun is showing us where we might feel censored or shut down from shining our light. So it's going to be interesting as these personal planets are going to be feeling and putting into context these oppositional unconscious planets. So this is definitely an ongoing theme. Now, with all of these oppositions, and I should say in this whole year, this is the season where most of the oppositions are showing up. This is a huge amount of oppositions at the same time. So this is really inviting us to not be in resistance, because when we're resisting what we're seeing and not acknowledging it or not trying to understand it, when we're in resistance, we're persisting with this pattern. It stays the same, it stays static. So what I see here is we have an invitation to invite the energy that we don't understand into the area where we can process it. And this is what I see happening. And so for you, Capricorns, you're likely to be processing the deep levels of change that you're seeing going on via the family, via the idea of the home, via the idea of our nations and our possibly patriotism or not, whatever we believe ourselves to be, like our stability, which is very much like rooted around home, and also rooted around our creativity, our ability to create families, our ability to create what it is we desire to create. So I think we're going to get, or you'll be experiencing through your Capricorn ascendant, you'll be experiencing possible triggering, possibly emotionally charged like feelings and events, and you'll be experiencing them through your 10th house, to do with your career and to do with how you're standing in the world, how you're wanting to be noticed in the world. And you'll also be processing them through your ability to collaborate. So it's going to be interesting because, you know, this is a very busy part of your chart right now where you're doing all your work. You're considering how you can go farther and go like further and deeper within your careers. This level of collaboration is going to be really pretty thrilling. It's going to definitely open up things for you and possibly loads of opportunities. And to me, it's like whatever is bothering you at a very root level, it's coming from the unconscious, it's coming from the group collective, and it may be reaching you via the home, it may be reaching you by this sense of wanting to sort things out your own way and to be creative in your own way. And yet you can't process it on your own. You're meant to be processing it externally, you know, maybe through your collaborations, maybe through your networks, maybe through all the people you're connected to, and also through your career. So this is going to be interesting. Now, the other two things I wanted to mention, which are going to be ongoing themes as well, and one of them I haven't actually put on this chart because it would have just got so busy, it would have been too much, but we've got Pluto and Uranus in a trine, and at the start of autumn, we've also got the sun in, let me just go back, the sun in an exact trine to Pluto and Uranus. And I haven't seen anything like this for a really, really long time, if at all. To have the Sun exactly trine Uranus and exactly trine Pluto, whilst they're also in a trine with each other. That's a very, very perfect grand trine. And later on, Venus is going to come into this trine. And of course, the moon, as it goes around 3 times during the season, is also going to go exactly into this trine. This is really seeding a sense of, I would say, hope for your career, to transform how you're being in your work and how you're being in terms of money, how you can use technology and new ideas and be really inventive to recreate your workflow and how you are reimagining your life. And then up here, how you can stand in the image of somebody that is successful. So to me, your success levels are going to be really worked on this season in a really positive way. It's really going to help you take shape and form in a way that's going to be pleasing. And then the last one is this reconstituting grand trine. So we've got the North Node down here in your 3rd house. We've got Jupiter in the 7th house. And then we're going to have Mars, Mercury, the Sun, Venus, and 3 separate moon cycles, all making this 3rd prong of this grand water trine through your social houses. You know, and so the North Node at the moment is currently going through your 3rd house, showing that there is this emphasis on a sense of belonging to your community, a sense of having meaning from your community and learning what it takes to get on with people at a deep level. And so this grand water trine is hitting you at the community level, at a partner level, and also at a collaborative level. And to me, this is a really great promise that you are becoming a lot more sincere with people. Your connections with people are going to be really tender, really felt, really understood. And I think there's a real softening around other people and you and all the potentials that exist there. So that's quite a whistle-stop tour of autumn for you. I hope that was helpful. Just to recap, there's career shifts with innovation to help rebuild your career and make it stronger. There's also this like rebuilding with humility, this sense of support and love and connection with people. And also you're processing some of the discord that you're feeling in the world via your career and networking. And then finally, the very last month, it just feels like it's time to retreat, retract, and get ready for the December solstice, whereby you're going to be cooking on gas. So I'm going to leave that there, Capricorn. I hope that was helpful for you in understanding this autumn season. If you would like to work with me on a one-to-one basis, all you need to do is go to my channel page on YouTube or into the description notes underneath this video. And there are links where you can just book directly into my diary. And if you fancy doing that, I invite you to invite me. I'll leave that with you. But anyway, you know, whatever's going on for you this month, this season, I hope it's a great one. Lots of love to you, Capricorn. Bye for now. Hey Aquarius, so let's have a look at autumn for you. What's showing up as a persistent theme? What's showing up as an opportunity? What kind of things are you going to be looking at? And you know, I'm going to be looking at it in a few different ways. First of all, which 3 houses are emphasized every autumn. Second of all, there's going to be 2 different sets of grand trines that are playing over and over and over again, a very similar theme that's going to slightly change and transform each time it reconstitutes. And I'm also looking at these series of oppositions that are going on between the personal planets and then some of the slower moving planets of our solar system. I'm going to start with the oppositions first, because I really want to finish on the crescendo of the grand trines, because that's a lot more optimistic. So bear with me if you want to stay for the good stuff. This is about a 10-minute forecast. So yeah, out of all of, I'm always looking at the types of aspects that are coming up every time I'm looking at doing a forecast. I'm always looking at the patterns, what patterns are revealing. And in autumn, and this is going to be the same actually for the next few autumns, I would say, whilst we've got Saturn, Neptune, Chiron and Uranus all very similar in the same place. So, autumn is going to be oppositional for quite a few years. But anyway, we've got the personal planets all working together. Mars at the moment is traveling roughly around the same part of the sky as the Sun, Mercury and Venus. Sun, Mercury and Venus are always, give or take, very close to each other. But Mars is also with them. So they're going to be going through this, like really through this zone of oppositions and just beyond into the sign of Sagittarius and a little bit beyond that later on. But they're really going into this zone of oppositions, and all of the oppositions this season are listed below. Okay. Now this personal area, you know, this is where we're experiencing things through the Sun, which is about how we're shining and how we feel expressed, through Mercury when we're thinking about communications and transactions, buying and selling and being busy, and really being in a mental space. Venus when we're feeling things through the heart, and, you know, in terms of how we relate to people and each other. And then Mars, in terms of how we feel in our body. Do we need to defend ourselves? Do we feel strong enough? Do we feel like we've got what it takes? And are we ready to take action? So it's interesting. Mars is leading for most of the oppositions, apart from the Uranus one, when Mercury gets in there first. And so all in all, we're feeling things in our body before it's registering at a thought level and before it's really registering at a heart level. So Mars really is the key planet. He is leading us forwards. And so any time in this autumn season where you're feeling really strong physical feelings in your body, you might want to ask, who does this belong to? You might want to find out, are you carrying something for the collective? Because in these oppositions, there's a lot of collective stuff that's going on that we're feeling. So let's talk a bit about the collective energies, these unconscious energies. The further out we go in the solar system, the less personal connection we have with the planets. What that means is their sphere of influence isn't meant to wake you up or me up, you know, with my finger pointing. It's not like personalized. It's, you know, these energies are happening to everyone across the board. It's there for us all. And to me, what this reminds me of is the old analogy of fish swimming in a bowl of water. You know, the unconscious collective energy is the water that they're swimming in. And right now we're in the collective consciousness, and that's where we're living in. And that collective consciousness is really sown through Saturn and Neptune, Chiron and Uranus. And so Saturn and Neptune has a very strong religious feel to it at the moment. I think we've got holy wars, we've got these sort of disputes, we've got energies where there's a lot of really strong ideologies and how we strive to make them matter more than maybe they do. This is a time in our lives where we are putting so much energy on ideologies that we're forgetting about our real lives. And so this is murmuring. The vibrations are felt right the way through our collective field. Now, Chiron has been in Aries since 2018. And, you know, Chiron is tuning us into the collective hurts and wounds. Now, I know there's a lot around censorship. There's a lot around persecution, which are very, very much Chiron themes. It's interesting, as I'm recording this, Mars is actually in an opposition to Chiron. So I do think persecution is massive at the moment. And then we got Uranus showing shocks, revelations, this sort of disturbance, this chaos, this feeling of an uprising, a social uprising, you know, people standing up and protesting is huge. I'm a bit nervous and wary of these oppositions to Uranus. So that's why I've written these dates down. You might find them useful too. But anyway, the unconscious energies are really filtering through to you, Aquarius, through your third and fourth house, through your sense of belonging. So I don't know what it is right now for you to feel like, how is it that you feel like you belong? But to me, like in your community, around your home, it feels like all these ideas that are being seeded in the collective unconsciousness right now are reaching you at home. So I imagine that through autumn, whilst our personal planets are in opposition to these, that you might feel a little bit uncertain at home. You might not feel like you completely belong. You might feel a little bit like an outsider, because it feels like you're being challenged on your belonging, and there are ideological considerations that seem to have taken over the things that you might have considered were important for you before. So this is huge. This is really sort of challenging. And then the Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars are being experienced through the ninth house, which has a lot to do with diversity and travel and expanding your mind, thinking more about religion and spirituality and politics and a higher subjects, a higher consciousness, a higher morality maybe even as well, you know. Definitely makes us reflect a lot more. It's like you're wanting to experience more of the world. So at a time when you feel like you're not belonging or not quite sure why you feel like you're not belonging, or maybe it feels like something isn't quite right at home, something's not quite right in your community, it feels like right now you're trying to resolve it or trying to understand what does feel right by going on an adventure, by looking, reading, learning, experiencing, talking to people of different nationalities and cultures and languages and arts and music and everything. There's this kind of deep diving energy that's making you be eternally curious. And, you know, this is really playing out in the first month until we're coming into the Scorpio month. And when the Scorpio month turns up, it's almost like the more broad you've been in your examination of the world at large, the more your career can prosper and move forwards. It feels like by considering things at a deeper level, you've got more to add to your actual career. So it's interesting. You know, there's a shift going on in terms of your rootedness. And because of it, it's moving you out into the world a lot more. And because of that, it's helping you with your career. So I can see this is really helpful. And then in the last month of autumn, you're coming into the 11th house, which is the next extension beyond your career. And that's to work collaboratively, to have a shared vision with people. And so to me, this is a really nice layout, actually, in terms of what it is you're trying to experience right now, Aquarius. This is actually expanding you out of all the different signs and layouts I've been looking at. This one to me is really showing purpose a lot more. It's a lot more apparent. Now, when I add in the first of our grand squares and our grand trines, and I haven't put it in because it would make my chart so confusing. But we've got this grand trine, and it starts with Pluto in your first, going to Uranus in your fifth, and then we've got the Sun right now making a grand trine in the air signs. Later on, we'll have Venus going into this space, making this grand trine to Pluto and Uranus, and we'll also have the Moon going through this once every month for the next 3 months, activating this beautiful grand air trine. Now, this grand air trine is really highlighting your first, your fifth and your ninth, really saying that you're transforming your personality, your body, your identity is really transforming through your ability to be innovative and creative and wild and free and really passionate about your freedom. And that you're experiencing your individuality and your ability to make friends and connect with people in a way that feels foreign and feels new and feels fresh. And the more you do that, the more it's changing your identity. And the more your identity changes, the more wild you become. And so this is quite an interesting rewilding program you're putting yourself on this autumn. It's great. And then the other one is this lovely soft, yummy water grand trine with the North Node here in your second house of money, Jupiter in Cancer in your sixth house, and then you'll have Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and also Venus and the Moon 3 times, making this third part of this trine. What a lovely water trine this is. And this is adding soul. This is adding like your soul's energy, your soul's yearnings, all those hidden like longings and deep impulses that have been, you know, within you for so long are going to be coming out through your career. And that's going to help you have more faith in yourself and get ready to humbly accept praise and to practice receiving things with a sense of grace. This is really beautiful. So there you go. They are my sort of 4 key themes. First of all, it's going from a sense of adventure and expansion to career, and then out into your networks and friends. So it's very outward facing, these 3 months. You're going to be processing some of the feelings of not belonging by actually going out into the world and finding your own sense of belonging. At the same time, you're rewilding yourself and also living your purpose with real passion. So I'm going to leave that there for you, Aquarius. I hope that was helpful in understanding autumn for you. And if you'd like to go deeper at a much more individual basis, then just get in touch. You can connect with me via, if you go to my channel page on YouTube and look in the description, or in the description underneath this video, there's links directly to my diary, and you can book yourself in. All you need to do is just invite me to work with you, and it's as simple as that. So I will leave that with you. Have a great autumn, and catch up with you real soon. Lots of love. Bye for now. Hey Pisces, so let's have a look at autumn for you and how it's shaping up. As I'm looking at this, well, there's 4 ways I want to use to sort of describe some of the themes for this season for you, this upcoming 3 months, which started on the 22nd of September, and it will take you right the way through to the winter solstice, I think on the 21st of December. This is a 3-month window, and I'm going to call them your Libra month, your Scorpio month, and your Sagittarius month. So the first sort of description of autumn for you, I would say, is that the first month of it, the Libra month, is exploring some of the heaviness in life, some of the things that you've struggled with to do with shame, blame, guilt and anger, some of the things that have been unfair that you've wanted to get to the root of, get to the bottom of. And some of the ancestral stuff, maybe there's some things to sort out with your parents or your children, or your partner in terms of shared assets and responsibilities. To me, this is, it can feel a little bit of a bind. It can feel a little bit heavy. But as you're coming into the next month of this particular season, you're coming into the Scorpio time. And for you, that's the 9th house. And it's encouraging you to get excited about life and to go on a bit of an adventure. It's encouraging you to write, to study, to learn things at a much deeper level, whether it's philosophical, spiritual, religious, or you might just want to travel and have some time off. To me, it's about being part of the adventure and venturing out far and wide. Now, these 2 houses are going to be they're going to process a lot of stuff through them. During the first 2 months of this season, you've got the Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars going through these houses. And when they're going through these houses, they are going into opposition with Saturn and Neptune, Chiron, and also Uranus. Now, it's interesting because these planets here are known as the personal planets, and the moon's going to zip right through here as well every month. But these are the personal planets. So the Sun is about how you shine in the world. Mercury is about your communication, your ability to reach and interact with people, and also about the markets and being quite agile. Venus is about how relatable you are and how that heart space feels between you and people. Are you in a place of trust and support or not? And then Mars is really showing you where your desire to stand strong and firm in yourself and maybe put up some boundaries here and there, and also make a defense if necessary. To me, this is affecting you at a mind, body, spirit level. And you could say heart, head and gut. This is really hitting you all the way around. This is the full package of personal influences are going to be experienced in a very conscious level. And then on the other side, we've got Saturn and Neptune in their conjunction, which feels very, well, even though it's striving to be spiritual and ideological, it's highly judgmental with Saturn involved with Neptune. It's like there are spiritual energies and religious energies and a lot of ideology, and Saturn is there to make it stronger, but Saturn is also bringing out judgments of anything that doesn't match those ideologies. And so we're swimming in very strong outside influences. You know, we're swimming in this unconscious water across the world. We're all in it, this humanity, this game right now of ideology and where it's going to take us. Very interesting. You know, Saturn is going to try and control spirituality. Saturn's going to try and control how we experience very deep and profound parts of life. Chiron is showing us our woundedness, our wounded nature, our human frailty. He's been in Aries since 2018. So we've definitely learnt to identify with our hurts and wounds for sure. And then we got Uranus currently in Gemini, but will end this tour in Taurus by the end of this season. You know, Uranus is shaking us up and is really looking to make radical changes and is likely to cause quite a lot of chaos and uprising as people get quite rebellious when they're challenged by Uranus. That's why I'm a little bit cautious around these dates of the exact Uranus oppositions. The Sun as well, yeah. In particular, the one that really I'm wary of is this 2nd of November to the 4th of November, with Venus in opposition to Chiron and Mars opposite Uranus. That's pretty heavy going, very heavy duty. But anyway, you know, these are unconscious energies that we're all feeling and picking up on right now. And we could choose to ignore them. We could choose to pretend they don't exist. But in the choosing to not acknowledge them, we're not living fully. And so the challenge here is, and I think this is what every opposition invites us to do, it's inviting us to bring over the energies from this unconscious realm into this very conscious, felt, personal side of our charts, where all the personal influences live, or currently live. And so we're asked to acknowledge what's going on around us and how we might feel about it, and to understand it at a deeper level, understand it from lots of different levels. And I think the more willing we are to see the other side and to do the shadow work, the easier it will be. But for people who are shunning it, I think this is a short, sharp shock kind of energy that could be coming up into mankind right now. This is a time to pay attention for sure, I think. Now, Mars has already gone into opposition with Saturn and Neptune, and it has definitely created a lot of anger against authority, a lot of anger and despondency towards ideologies. It's also made people feel unsafe and given us the thinking that we need to create our own sense of safety. Mars is currently in opposition to Chiron, which I think is tuning into the collective wound that we're feeling in our physical bodies. You know, so as the planets go through these oppositions, we're mostly experiencing it in the body first. The Uranus one, Mercury just gets in before ever so slightly, but, you know, we're feeling things very passionately, like this sense in our body. We might choose to ask ourselves, where does this come from? Who does this belong to? Is this ours? Is this mine? Because you'll feel it before you'll know what you're feeling with this Mars. And hence why I think it's important that people feel safe and that they feel like they are they've got everything that they need around them. So yeah, there's this very strong oppositional energy playing out. And I think it's a time to hold on to your hats. It's also a time to hold on to what is working and to recognise what is working. And that's these two grand trines I want to just explain to you now. So the first one, which I didn't put in this drawing, but you've got Pluto here in your 12th, down to Uranus here in your 4th, coming up to the Sun. And this is actually right now as I'm recording this, Pluto, Uranus and the Sun all in a grand trine, beautifully working together. This is speeding up everything that you've ever thought about your private world. You know, the 12th house is about your intuition, and, you know, that's being transformed right now, lightning fast. It's like you could really unpick all of your errant belief systems, your feelings about yourself, your feelings of trauma. That can all be unpicked in a minute and reprogrammed very quickly. I think you could be somebody that's learning about brain technology in a really powerful way. And then you've got Uranus in the 4th house, and that's showing changes in the way that you want to live, and possibly changes in your home. You know, do you still feel like you fit at home? If not, what is it you need to change? And so this is really coming up. It's almost like a restlessness at home. And, you know, this restlessness to experience the deepest aspects of life in a new way. So that's another ongoing thing. But the thing that I'm most excited for you, and that's the North Node in your 1st house, connecting to Jupiter. And then throughout this season, we're going to have Mars, Mercury, the Sun and Venus and the Moon 3 times, making this 3rd corner. And so there's this reconstituting Grand Trine in water signs that's coming up again and again. And it's really emphasizing how you feel like you're back on track, you know what your direction is, and the sort of soulfulness of your journey, added into the sense of creativity and expansion. It's almost like the more expansive you are, the more you feel like you're on track. And underpinning that as well is this personalized need to travel, this personalized need to experience life from a completely different perspective. It's like a very strong level of curiosity. So to me, it's like the more curious you are, the more creative you are, the more you're feeling on track. So I really see that autumn is a whole combination of all of these factors. And I really hope that this is helpful in illustrating that even at those times when you feel like things are very oppositional and very challenging and possibly very triggering, that all of these are helping you to create life at a faster pace, to let go of some of these old stories so that you can use creativity and adventure to get back on track. So there you have it, Pisces. I hope that's helpful. If you would like to unpack this with me one-to-one, then have a look at my channel page on YouTube. There's a couple of links that will book directly into my diary. I've also got the same links in my description box underneath this video. So feel free to just invite me to work with you. That's entirely your choice. And I will leave that with you. Loads and loads of love throughout autumn. I hope you have a spectacular time, and hope to catch up with you all soon. Lots of love. Bye for now. So there you have it. They were my thoughts about this autumn. Like I said, this is the most oppositional time of the year. It's really, there's a real big sense of stirring, a real big sense of restlessness, I would say. I'm a bit concerned about the Uranus opposition to Mars and Mercury, because I think there's going to be some big shocks on their way. I mean, there's some really great new moons. I'm very excited about these new moons that are coming in. But these new moons are right at the end and beginning of signs. And so they're really playing into the current outer planet setup at the moment. So to me, this is just, a symbol that we really are right in the middle of some very deep change. And not only is this affecting us all personally, the feeling of renewal, this feeling of revival, restoration, it's such a strong impulse in us. I really think our hidden longings that maybe we haven't even realised we have are starting to come up, and you're like, wow, I didn't know I wanted that, but it feels so real. I do think we're going to really change and evolve a lot in these next 3 months. So there you go. I hope that helps you to understand some of the energies, and wishing you a beautiful autumn. And you know where I am if you want to connect. Loads of love to you, and speak to you all soon. Bye for now.